You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 10th part of What If Deku and Hero Academia joins Power Rangers. Smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Back inside of the tower, blazing wave, Giller shouted as he swung his axes diagonally, sending flaming slashes towards the charging rangers. But Ren and Momo quickly inserted their ranger keys into their weapons. Final wave. A voice from Ren and Momo's weapons announced, with Ren's legacy saber blade glowing bright red and Momo's legacy gun barrel glowing bright pink, charging up power. Momo then fires a pink energy bullet from her legacy gun, before Ren swings out 2 red energy slashes from his legacy saber to collide with the pink bullet for both attacks to increase in power. As the combined attack heads to Giller's fire attack, with both attacks colliding against each other to cause an explosion that cancel their attacks out in an instant. Don't let up, guys, Ren encouraged his teammates. Okay, the others shouted back to their leader. Hold still, damn you, Rainbow Splitter, Giller screamed in between his swings as he tried to hit the Rangers to no avail, with heroes dodging out of the way in time, glaring hatefully at the team of heroes who were making his body aching in pain. The Rangers then moved forward at their opponent as Giller tried to pull his arms back. His longer reach with his massive arms prevented him from being able to pull them back fast enough. However, instead of bringing his arms back closer to the side body, Giller swung his right axe to the right once the Rangers were close enough for him to attack them at close range. Seeing the incoming axe blade, Takoyami summoned Dark Shadow in an attempt to defend his teammates, and Momo used her quirk to create a large shield that shot straight at Dark Shadow, who caught it to increase his defense. The moment the shield met Giller's axe, Dark Shadow was successfully able to hold back the attack, with the shield being dented in the process from the power behind the axe's swing. What? Giller cried out with his eyes widened, but before Giller could express surprise at the unexpected move, Midoriya quickly leaped at the giant man to kick him in the face, which made Giller take a few steps back in pain. The others followed suit as each of them successfully slashed the cultists with their sword in a quarantined attack. That made Giller scream in pain as he could feel the blades pierce through his skin as he was slightly bleeding from his wounds. Giller gritted his teeth in frustration before powering through the attacks as he raised his left hand into the air. With his left hand, axe began to glow a rainbow of colors. Rainbow Splitter, he shouted as he swung downwards into the ground. The result was a powerful rainbow-colored explosion that shattered the ground and pushed back the Pirate Legacy Rangers as they screamed and fell back on the ground. You damn brats, did you really think your attacks can take me down? Giller muttered under his breath as the Rangers recovered from the attack and they got back on their feet. Don't underestimate me, he shouted as he rushed forward in burst of speed, catching the heroes off guard at how fast he could move. The group of Rangers tried to quickly move away, only for Ren and Kendo both to get hit in the abdomen by Giller's massive leg, as they were sent flying in some objects that got destroyed when they hit them. Ren, Kendo, the others shouted in concern for their friends. You'll pay for that. An enraged Oase rushed at him to swing his blade. Giller blocks the blade with his left axe, then counter-strikes Oase with an elbow jab to the back of his head with his left arm, which makes Oase roll on the ground in pain. Sorry, did that hurt? Giller said in a mocking tone with a psychotic grin. Momo and Takoyami then started to fire their legacy guns at the large cultist. As Giller was evaluating the gunfire, by circling around the 2 Rangers he got closer and brought his left-hand axe up for an attack. End of the line, brats, Giller stated coldly as his axe began to glow a rainbow color again. Your main now. Not good. Momo slightly panicked as she bought up her weapons for defense. Look out. Takoyami got in front of Momo as he summoned Dark Shadow to defend them. Rainbow-esque, Giller shouted as he was about to use his magical attack until Midoriya rushed the cultist with lightning speed and thrust his spear forward at Giller's left axe, not only stopping his magical attack halfway through but also leaving some cracks in it as he was thrown off guard by this, with his body shifting to the right side. Now's our chance, Momo stated as she and Takoyami bought up their legacy guns. Upon seeing the opening Midoriya gave them, Takoyami and Momo started firing their guns wildly at the exposed cultists, causing Giller to scream out in pain again, allowing Midoriya to land back on the ground near the villain while spinning his spear around his body skillfully before unleashing a chain of spear combos at Giller. The massive cultist tried to smash the Silver Ranger with both of his massive axes only for Kendo and Ren, who had recovered from their injuries, to block both attacks with their swords, and then the two pushed the man back by double-kicking him in the abdomen as blood spurted out from the mouth. But the Rangers didn't give him any time to recover as Dark Shadow flew at Giller for an uppercut that knocked him off his feet into the air before Ren, Kendo, Tokoyami, and Momo began to shoot the massive cultist in mid-air with him howling in pain. Then Midoriya quickly appeared behind in a burst of speed before swinging his spear into Giller's back that sends him flying straight down. Final wave, a voice said, making Giller look over to see Awase, whose weapon blade was glowing bright blue as it was charging up power. Time for some payback, asshole, Awase shouted while charging at him, as he tried to get in close to slash at him again only for Giller to glare hatefully at the Blue Ranger to counter with his left axe as it started to glow blue. Freezing wave, Giller shouted in cold fury as he swung his axe to the side. A blue cutting wave shot upwards towards Awase followed by a spiked line of ice. Seeing the incoming flying slash, Awase jumped at the last second to dodge the icy slash while he spun through the air diagonally, avoiding several more flying slashes sent towards him and getting closer to Giller. Legacy slash, Awase shouted while swinging his blade at Giller in point-blank range, who in return tried to block the attack with his left axe, as a blue energy slash pushes the massive cultist flying back into a stock of wooden boxes while he crashes into them that covers his whole body in dust, with the Blue Ranger landing back on the ground. Soon all the Rangers regrouped with each other, with Giller immediately got up from a pile of broken wood which was covered in tons of injuries as he had multiple cut wounds, clothes torn up, and some blood was covering his body. His left battle axe was destroyed into pieces by Awase's attack, and Giller was now breathing heavily from his injuries with an expression of pure fury as he bared his teeth at the Rangers like a rabid dog. "I've had it," Giller muttered in cold fury as he slowly picked up his remaining axe while trying to ignore his injuries. "You stupid kids are going to pay for this." "Great, now's he angry," Ren sarcastically said out loud. "Hey guys, I noticed that there are some cracks in his weapon," Midoriya pointed out as the others noticed it as well while cancelling out his quirk for a moment. "We might be able to break that axe if we give them a few more hits," he suggested, "which will leave him defenseless to a final attack," Tokoyami said as he could see Midoriya's plans. "Sounds good to me, Midoriya," Kendo said, hitting Midoriya's shoulder as a compliment. "Yes, it does," Momo agreed with a nod. "Then let's get to breaking those axes," Ren said to everyone. "If that's the case, then let's make him see blue," Awase suggested, with everyone agreeing to the next Ranger forms to take and took out their morphers. Then the Pirate Legacy Rangers pressed a button on the top of their belt buckles to summon Blue Ranger keys, grabbing it with their right hands. "Just what the hell are you doing?" Giller asked in annoyance as he readied his battle axe for what was to come next. "Legendary Blue Ranger mode," they all shouted together while holding up their Blue Ranger keys before flicking them open, except for Midoriya, and then inserted the keys into their morphers. "Go Galactic," Ren shouted while turning the key as the Lost Galaxy logo appeared in front of the Ranger before consuming Ren to change him into the blue Lost Galaxy Ranger. "RPM, get in gear," Awase shouted while turning the key as the RPM logo appeared in front of the Ranger before consuming Awase to change him into the blue RPM Ranger. "Magical Source, Mystic Force," Kendo shouted while turning the key as the Mystic Force logo appeared in front of the Ranger before consuming Kendo to change her into the blue Mystic Ranger. "Go Megaforce," Tokoyami shouted while turning the key as the Gosei Blue Power card logo appeared in front of the Ranger before consuming Tokoyami to change him into the Megaforce Blue Ranger. "Activate Beast Power," Momo shouted while turning the key as the Beast Morpher logo appeared in front of the Ranger before consuming Momo to change her into the Blue Beast Ranger. "Jungle Beasts, Spirits Unleashed," Midoriya shouted while turning the key as the Jungle Fury logo appeared in front of the Ranger before consuming Midoriya to change him into the Jungle Fury Blue Ranger. "Hiya." The Blues Rangers all posed together as Giller was surprised by the sudden costume changes. "What the hell kind of magic is that?" Giller asked in an angry tone. "It's all blue, baby," Awase jokingly said as it only made the cultist angrier. "Don't think a costume changing will help you, insects," Giller said before raising his battle axe in the air as it was glowing red. I'll burn you all to ashes. Blazing wave, he shouted as he swung the battle axe straight into the floor, sending a pillar of flames that traveled through the ground towards the rangers. Your flames shall not pass, Takoyami shouted, getting in front of everyone while holding up his Gosai Morpher and pulling out a power card from his belt buckle. Before opening up the Morpher Defense Stream, he placed the Defense Stream card into the Morpher before closing the Gosai Morpher with it latch up, as a large stream of water appeared from the Morpher to form a shield that made connection with Giller's attack. Takoyami was holding back the pillar of flames from hitting his friends, as he managed to withhold long enough for the flames to dispel by the water with the shield disappearing. You little punks, Giller grumbled in frustration as his attack failed. Now it's our turn, Momo shouted while taking a step forward. Hope you're ready for us, Oase shouted while stepping forward as well. Transport, Beast X Blaster and Beast X Saber, Momo shouted while tapping her core Beast Morpher's transporters twice with her left hand as a blaster and giant combat knife materialized in front of her in midair. She then grabs them before placing the blaster under her left underarm to fold up the Beast X Saber into something different, right before taking the Beast X Blaster from under her pit to combine the two weapons together. Beast X Cannon, ready, Momo announced while holding up her cannon. Oase pressed a button on his belt buckle before the number on his chest started to glow bright as it summoned a massive cannon with him and grabbed it. Turbo Cannon, Oase shouted while holding up the cannon with both hands. Then both rangers pointed their weapons at Giller for a long-range attack. Beast X Cannon Blast, Momo shouted while the Beast X Cannon was charging powers, with multiple cylinders of green digital energy circling the tip of the cannon, before pulling the trigger to fire off a powerful laser blast at the cultists. Turbo Cannon, Fire, Oase shouted while pulling the trigger to fire off multiple balls of energy at the cultists. Giller in response slammed his battle axe on the floor again, which was glowing blue, to summon a blue wave of energy that erupted from the ground, followed by a massive wall of ice lined with hundreds of spikes. As both attacks made contact with each other, that causes an explosion that destroys all the ice the cultist created to shield himself from the laser assault, with fragments of ice now lining the battlefield. Don't think you can take me out that easily. Giller was breathing heavily between his sentences as he was clearly reaching his limit. You look tired. How about you have some water? Kendo said, pulling out her Magi staff and pointing it at the cultist. Magi staff, water power, she shouted as her staff glowed light blue. Then suddenly, a large pillar of high-pressure water erupted from the ground underneath Giller's feet, making him scream as the massive man rocketed to the sky, while being soaked in pain by high-pressure water. Now it's our turn, Midoriya, Ren said to his friend. Yeah, let's go, Midoriya replied back with a nod. Quasar Saber, Ren shouted while pulling the blue Quasar Saber from its holster as the saber's length extended longer. Jungle Tonfa, Midoriya shouted while placing his right hand over his left fist to summon two Tonfas in his hands. One for all, full cal 25%. Even more green lightning begins to surround Midoriya's body, with him drawing out more of his quirk's power. The green-haired boy could feel his muscles ankling in pain as he was clearly going over his powers limited. It hurts, but I can still move, and something is telling me not to hold anything back on this next attack, he thought, pushing past the pain for this moment. Giller was still screaming while still going higher in the air until his pace started to go slower, before looking back to the ground with a pissed expression as if he had enough of the Power Rangers. That's it, you fucking brats. I don't care about how you all got here or why you're even here or what the hell kind of magic you're using. All I know is that I'm going to tear colorful bastards apart until you're begged for the sweet release of death. And then I'm going to do the same to that little red-haired witch, Giller shouted in cold fury as he placed his hand on the broadside of his axe. Mode change, size expansion, Giller shouted as he swiped his hand over his axe's broadside, causing it to glow brightly as it proceeded to expand in size until it was large enough to dwarf even the massive cultist. Hefting the giant-sized weapon up with both arms, Giller began to spin around rapidly as the air shimmered around the massive axe, its color changing from a bright orange to a crimson red, with the cultist falling back down to the ground at the heroes. He's coming at us with everything he's got, Kendo cried out while pointing at him. Nothing more than an act of desperation, Takoyami added in with a critical gaze. End of the line, you ranger brats, Giller shouted as he spun. Each spin sent shockwaves all around the areas as the cavern walls to the iron beams supporting the massive platform a few feet away began to break apart under the force of his swings. Ready, Midoriya, Ren said to his partner while getting into a jumping position. I was born ready, Midoriya said back while ignoring his muscle pain to get into his own jumping position, as the two of them leaped into the air at the cultist in a burst of speed. Hahaha, do you really think your weak puny attacks will save you from this attack? Giller shouted as he continued to spin, now resembling a large tornado with a red ring around it. Let me tell you something, brats. This type of magic axe not only has the ability to create fire and ice attacks but vibrate molecules until the matter it composes falls apart. He explained viciously as the tornado moved forward as Ren and Midoriya were coming at him in midair. Even if my axe's blades fail to cut through you, its shredding powers will completely tear you two apart. Quasar Saber, power up! Ren shouted while the Quasar Saber blade was glowing blue with the elemental of water. Spirit of the Jaguar! Midoriya shouted as his whole body was surrounded by a blue aura of the Jaguar spirit, mixing with the power of one for all to give him even more power, as Midoriya's body was covered in a blue aura while discharging many green sparks of electricity. Fine, then you brats, prepare to die. Giller reached his maximum speed as he prepared to use his ultimate attack, Shredder Typhoon. He yelled as his rotation stopped and he swung his axe with all his might towards the two rangers. When both sides finally rushed each other, Ren and Midoriya both swung their weapons against Giller's magic axe, as the clash caused an explosion of shockwaves that made the whole cavern shake violently as the clash looked like an even stalemate. Both Ren and Midoriya let out a battle cry as they did not let up for a second while their special attacks charged up to the mix. This is my ultimate attack. How the hell are you two holding out for this long? Giller couldn't help but ask in utter shock as his ultimate attack didn't suddenly kill his enemies like it did so many times before in the past. Because we have something you bastards don't process, Ren shouted angrily. The ability to fight for those who can't protect themselves from villains like you, Midoriya stated angrily. With that said, the cracks in Giller's battle axe started to grow larger as both the Blue Rangers slowly gained the upper hand in the stalemate. It's time to go beyond, Ren and Midoriya said while pushing even harder at the cultist attack. Plus Ultra. The two rangers shouted together in sync for one final push that shatters the enlarged magical battle axe into pieces while continuing forward at Giller. Giller was unable to do anything or even process the shock of his weapon breaking as Midoriya's jungle tonfa collided against his face hard and Ren's Quasar Saber cut him deep in his chest. Every bone in his face shattered upon impact with his teeth breaking apart and blood was shooting out of his wound like a water hose. Just as fast the sound of the blow was heard, the two rangers' combo attack pushed the massive cultist against the rock wall forming the cliff before moving upward and sending Giller crashing into the rocky ceiling as thunderous explosions were heard with him being finished for good. Upon seeing what their teammates did, the rangers on the ground cheered in celebration at their friend's victory as a quick flash of light changed them back into their usual attire. Alright, they did it, Away said in happiness. I had no doubt that they would prevail. Takoyami nodded with a grin. Same here, Kendo agreed happily. Indeed, Momo said with a smile. Soon Ren and Midoriya landed back on the ground, and then a flash of light changed them back to their pirate legacy before demorphing back to normal as they collapsed on the floor in exhaust. The others demorph as well and run up to their two friends. Are you both alright? Momo asking them. Yeah, we're good, Ren said while giving a thumbs up. Why yeah, just a little tired that's all, Midoriya said breathing heavily as he could still feel his muscles tight. Now that you mentioned it, I felt pretty worn out, Away said feeling crazy and trying all of a sudden. Yeah, why is that? Kendo asked feeling exhausted. It's because your bodies aren't used to your new abilities just yet, Tommy said appearing in front of everyone. The same thing happened to Ren when he morphs for the first time, which is why I'll have to train you all to handle your powers more when we get back. Makes sense, and I'm looking forward to it, Takoyami said with a nod as the other new rangers agreed too. So I think we wasted enough time on that fiend of a man. Yeah, Urza went on ahead of Else to reach her friend, Momo said with a concerned look on her face. I'm a little worried about her. I'm pretty sure she's alright. She's tougher than she looks, Kendo said knowing that the girl was the leader of the revolt. True, but we make a promise to the others to keep her safe, Midoriya said to the others. So, what's our next move then guys? Oase asked out loud. We need to go catch up with Urza, Momo suggested. Then let's go and hopefully we won't have to run into any more cultists, Ren said getting up from the ground with the help of Takoyami. Thanks, brother. He got a nod from his friend. Take my hand, Kendo said also helping up Midoriya as he gave his thanks to her. You can take those stairs over there, Tommy said pointing over at the stairs to the cliffside of the pathway Urza took. You better hurry back to her, he said before disappearing again. With that being said, the rangers ran up the stairs that Tommy pointed at as they made their way to where Urza went. Meanwhile, outside the disciplinary chamber, after breaking away from the rangers and several minutes of running, Urza found herself standing just a couple of feet from the entrance to the disciplinary chamber. The red-haired girl calmly walked forward past the unconscious bodies of multiple cultists, all of them having been cut down by the 2 swords she had picked up along the way. Now the only things standing in Urza's way from rescuing Jello were Skinny and Fatty, who were now soiling themselves in fear of the girl they had tortured several days prior. "And now let's take it easy," Fatty said hesitantly, scared out of his wits by the little girl who was glaring at him with her singular eye. "Why yeah," Skinny said soon after, equally terrified of the little girl in front of him. "Look, we're really sorry about all the stuff we put you through," the man said quickly, trying to save his own hide while Urza continued forward unmoved by his words. I mean, we were only doing all that stuff because we were ordered to, we had no choice," he pleaded pathetically as Urza's eye narrowed even more. "We're the only ones left from the order. You guys have won already," Fatty stated in fear. "Can't we just settle our differences peacefully, huh?" Skinny asked, trying to reach out to Urza's good nature. "Move," Urza replied in tranquil fury as she rushed forward to slash Fatty and Skinny across their chests, sending both cultists flying into the air. Urza didn't pay them any attention as they crashed onto the floor unconscious. She was here for one thing only. Looking around the disciplinary chamber, Urza strained her remaining eye to find who she was looking for until she caught sight of the person chained to a single pillar in the room. "Jello," Urza shouted in joy, relieved to find her friend was alright despite whatever horrors he was subjected to in the past few days. As Urza ran towards the chained-up boy, Altair watched the scene from her hiding spot. "This should be fun to watch," Altair thought maliciously with a smile, having everything already prepared for the climax. "Jello, it's okay now. It's all over now. We all fought back just like you said," Urza shouted excitedly as she cut off the chains shackling the boy to the pillar. "We had a lot of trouble along the way, and Sho got his foot hurt badly, and there were plenty of sacrifices," she explained sadly, remembering all the losses they had over the past few days, as Jello made no move to show he was listening. "But then some incredible people showed up today and helped us beat them. It's because of them I managed to get to you," she said, cheering up significantly when she remembered everything the Power Rangers had done for her and her friends today. They're a group of heroes called the Power Rangers, and they have devices that lets them turn into colorful costumes, giving them amazing powers that aren't magic, which I don't really understand, but I don't care because we are free now," Urza said rapidly as her excitement from winning their freedom kept her from noticing something was off about Jello. "Come on, we need to go find the Rangers so we can get on their ship with the others," Urza said as she helped Jello up to his feet. "We can leave this island forever," she shouted in excitement for the new life ahead of them. "RZA," Jello muttered softly as Urza immediately took notice of his words. Before she could ask him what he wanted, Jello wrapped his arms around Urza to her shock. For several minutes, Jello and Urza stood like this with Urza having no idea about what to do. Despite wanting to enjoy his embrace for as long as she wanted, Urza knew this was neither the time nor the place for such a moment. Before she could get him to move, Jello spoke. "There'll be no more running," Jello said in an emotionless tone. "Huh?" Urza sputtered, having not expected Jello to say something like that, let alone in such a cold voice. She was about to ask him what he meant by that when Urza noticed that Jello had tightened his arms around her. "Jello," she questioned as she tried to get out of his grip. "True freedom lies right here," Jello said malevolently with a sinister smile on his face as he let go of Urza and started walking away. "Jello," Urza muttered, unsure of Jello's strange behavior. "What are you saying?" "We've got to get to the Rangers and join the others so we can run away together," she shouted, not understanding why Jello was walking from her. Jello began, not even turning to face the redhead girl as Altair watched the show from her hiding spot. "Freedom is not a thing that exists in this world," he stated calmly to Urza's shock. "I came to realize this during my time in this room. What we should truly strive for is no mere fleeting freedom." He emphasized that last word as his disgust poured through his voice at that moment. "I seek true freedom. Zareth's world," Jello stated loudly as he turned to face Urza with a psychotic smile, stunning the girl with his announcement. What?" Urza stunningly said as she couldn't understand her friend. "I can understand a little how they felt too now. They were trying to revive Zareth into the world," Jello stated as he walked to the unconscious bodies of Fatty and Skinny. A look of understanding was on his face that only seemed to enhance the psychotic look in his eyes. His look of understanding quickly evolved into an expression of rage and disgust as a dark aura surrounded him. But they were pitiful believers who could not even feel their master's presence. "Right?" Jello yelled as his newfound magic activated, lifting both Fatty and Skinny into the air to Urza's shock. Jello can use magic now, Urza thought in shock as a few feet away. Altair milked the redhead's expression for all it was worth and almost regretted not bringing a camera lacrima to record the whole thing. I'll be taking this tower, Jello stated just as Fatty and Skinny regained consciousness to hear his words. I will complete the R system and bring about Zeref's resurrection, he declared. What's wrong with you, Jello? Urza muttered hesitantly, sweat pouring down her face at how much colder Jello has become since she last saw him. I don't understand what you're saying. Useless, Jello stated psychotically as he snapped Skinny's neck with his magic, shocking Urza speechless at the brutal execution. She watched in horror as Jello flung Fatty's body all around the chamber, the cultist begging for his life the entire time, before making the fat cultist's body expand and burst into dust. Heh, he muttered as he pointed his hands at the unconscious cultists lying outside the room before he fired multiple blasts of dark magic at them. Stop this, Jello, Urza shouted in horror as Jello continued to slaughter cultists left and right, laughing psychotically with each kill he made. Jello, get a hold of yourself. I'm sure this is just because you've been tortured and you're not in your right mind, she pleaded, unwilling to see her friend continue on his killing spree. There's nothing wrong with me, Jello countered as he smiled psychotically. Urza, let us complete the R system, no, the Tower of Heaven, together, he offered as he put his hand forward. And then we can resurrect Zeref. Stop talking nonsense, Jello, Urza yelled as she knocked Jello's hand aside. We're leaving this behind us forever, Urza declared, unwilling to go along with his insane plan. Though I really wish I brought popcorn for this, Altair thought as she watched Jello's eyes narrow dangerously as something snapped inside him. Faster than Urza could react, Jello put his hand forward and blasted Urza with an invisible wave of magic, sending the redhead crashing through the wall of the disciplinary chamber and out into a large open cavern. Urza barely managed to push her body off the ground with her arms, noticing that the area she was in was one of the battlegrounds she fought in early as there were multiple cultists lying all over the place. Go ahead, Jello's voice echoed across the area as Urza barely managed to look up to see him overlooking her from the hole in the wall he made. If you want to leave so much, then go ahead and leave on your own, the blue-haired boy said calmly, staring down at the girl with cold, psychotic eyes. On my own, Urza replied in shock, but I'll be taking all the others' slaves. I need them to construct the Tower of Heaven, Jello explained. His eyes showed he meant every word. They just got it all wrong. Those masked fools never gave us a reason to work, he countered. Neither he nor Urza noticed that Altair was now watching them from the hole in the wall above them. I'll give them that reason. They will work for the sake of the mighty mage, Zeref. Jello, Urza muttered in concern. Please open your eyes, she pleaded desperately in order to reach out to the Jello she knew. But Urza's words fell on deaf's ears as Jello moved his hands towards her as a purple magical circle appeared in front of him. Urza was soon surrounded by a large number of red glyphs that swirled around her before it grabbed her, bringing her arms to her chest as she soon found herself unable to move her body. As Urza struggled to break the red glyphs' hold on her, and said glyphs lifted her in the air and brought her in front of Jello. I don't need you anymore, Jello stated coldly as he grabbed a hold of Urza's chin and forced the girl to look at him eye to eye. But I'm not going to kill you. I appreciate what you've done, eliminating those nuisances for me, he said warmly as he softly caressed Urza's right cheek. You can leave the island. You go and find your fleeting freedom, Jello, Urza struggled to say. The red glyphs' hold around her neck made it difficult for her to breathe. I doubt I need to tell you that you must never speak of this to anyone, Jello stated smugly as he gripped Urza harshly. If the government were to find out about the Tower of Heaven, the plan would no doubt be ruined, he stated to her. If we were to be discovered, I would have to destroy the evidence. This tower and everybody working on it, Jello explained with a malicious grin. And you must never return to this place. If you are ever sighted in the area, I'll start killing everyone, he threatened as his expression unchanging. Let's see, who should I kill first if you ever come back? Jello pondered before realizing it. Oh, I know. Yes, I think I'll kill Sho first before the others, he stated smugly. Jello, Urza muttered, heartbreaking at how twisted Jello had become. That is your precious freedom. Live on, with the lives of your Nakama resting on your back, Urza, Jello shouted as he cackled crazily, unable to hear the sound of footsteps coming towards him. That's enough, an angry voice shouted out loud which surprised Urza, Jello, and Altair. Before Jello could even continue, the crazed blue-haired boy was suddenly hit by a high-powered burst of water as Jello was sent flying across the area into a wall, and the glyphs holding Urza up disappeared instantly. Before the redhead could fall to the ground, she was caught in her unknown savior's arms bride style. Looking up, she was stunned by who had come to her rescue. Ren, Urza thought in shock as tears were rolling down her face, with Ren wearing a stern expression on his face as he glared angrily in the direction he sent Jello flying by using his water ninjutsu. This power belongs to Tori Hansen, the Blue Wind Ranger. Due to her ninja training, her affinity for water allows her to move across the water as if it were solid ground, create high-powered bursts of water as an offensive weapon, and manipulate and control water for a number of effects, such as creating objects. Hey, Urza. The red-haired girl looked over to a nearby entrance as Midoriya, Awase, Kendo, Takoyami, and Momo all ran into the with worried looks on their faces, making their way to the little girl to see if she's okay. Everyone, Urza thought in shock. Thank goodness you're safe, Kendo said, letting out a breath of relief. We heard screaming and thought you were in danger, Momo shouted in worry. Yeah, and our leader here used his super speed to get to you just in time. Awase information the girl. And it looks like he made it in time, Takoyami added in with a smile at seeing the girl was not harmed. Urza, are you alright? Midoriya asked concernedly. His expression was caring as he checked to see any injuries on the little girl. Did that guy hurt you? Ren asked as he carefully placed Urza back onto her feet, holding her gently to prevent her from collapsing onto the ground. Urza nodded shakily as tears streamed down her face from her left eye. Her emotions were a mixture of sadness and relief. Meanwhile, up above them, Altair gritted her teeth in both rage and confusion at the events happening before her as she'd absolutely had no idea who these people were. Who in the hell are these people? Are they slaves? No, they can't be. The clothes that they're wearing don't look like dirty rugs, so they must have come to this island on their own. Altair thought in fury as she was thinking of a number of probabilities on who the Rangers were. Well, whoever these people are, they're going to ruin everything I've worked for, she thought in concern, unaware of a figure that's been waiting for the whole event as well in secret, standing next to the entrance in the room behind her before walking towards her. I got to stop them before they do anything else, she said, only to have an oversized hand slam into her back. Then a jolt of pain suddenly arises in the little girl's body as Altair's eyes widen up while holding back the urge to scream. Altair immediately fell forward as her body began to convulse from the unbearable pain. What the hell happened to me? Altair thought in shock as her body convulsed from pain and the sclera in her eyes began to change from white to black to white again. And what is this unbelievable pain I'm feeling? Now, young lady, you can't just rush in like that. A mischievous and mysterious female voice spoke out, causing Altair to struggle to look up to see the demonic woman who was looking at the child with a sadistic look on her face as she took pleasure in torturing her victims. Altair's eyes widened in pure horror when she saw the inhuman woman above her, although she had never seen nor met members of that infamous Dark Guild in person. From what her master had told her about them, she could remember that they didn't use magic like everyone else but their own form of combat called curses. There's no way. It couldn't be that. Why is one of the members of Tartaros's 9 demon gates doing here? Altair thought to herself in shock as she looked at Kyoka and focused all her magic sensing on her but didn't feel any foul of magical power coming from her at all. Before Altair could do anything to get up, as Kyoka lifted her right foot up and slammed it down on Altair's head, keeping the girl from getting up. Well, this is pretty interesting to watch than what I'm usually used to, Kyoka said enthusiastically, as Altair glared up at the demon from under her bird-like foot. Although she muttered as the Ithurias turned to look at the Rangers and Urza in interest before grabbing her chin with her left hand. These humans can benefit Tartaros's cause, the demon muttered darkly under her voice as she glared at the Power Rangers, having a feeling that there was more to these humans than meets the eye, but she could not place how. Wait, that was Jello, Midoriya shouted in shock after listening to Urza's story of what happened to her while they were separated. So he's the friend you wanted to save so badly? Momo asked with a stunned look. If he's really your friend, then why the hell was he hurting you like this? Awase shouted. Pure fury filled his voice at how the blue-haired boy treated his friend and savior. I don't know, Urza answered meekly, unsure of what happened to her friend to make him change like this. Before they could talk anymore, there was an eruption of darkness from the direction Jello was sent. The heroes and Urza turned to see Jello walking towards them as the wall behind him collapsed with him soaked in water. A look of pure fury was on his face as he glared at both the Rangers and Urza, mostly towards Ren because of what he did to him. Who the hell are you bastards? Jello shouted in fury. A dark aura covered his entire body. Such darkness from someone so young. Takoyami muttered to himself in concern, while Urza took a step back in fear at the dark look in Jello's eyes. The Hero Force Rangers was undeterred by the glare as Ren stepped forward protectively in front of the redhead and his teammates, as an expression of seriousness was on his face as he held his arm up to the side. Everyone stand back, I'll handle this one on my own. Just look after Urza, Ren ordered his team, as they nodded back to him and let their leader deal with this before moving back to a safety distance. Come on, Urza, Ren can handle this one, Kendo said, placing her hands on the girl's shoulder while moving out of the way. Okay, Urza said while looking back at Ren in concern. Ren glared angrily at the blue-haired boy before him as Urza stared in shock at his declaration, and the other rangers having faith in their leader. Jello, on the other hand, had a bemused expression on his face at Ren's declaration. Really, you're going to take me by yourself, Jello stated confidently, chuckling at the very thought as Ren glared at him. A hilarious thought, but seriously, who are all of you? Jello's expression turned serious as Ren began to walk forward. Ren Amamiya, Ren answered stoically, glaring at the blue-haired boy as he walked toward him before stopping a few feet away from him. And we're the Power Rangers, Fairy Tale Universe, Tower of Heaven Knight. What's happening? Sho cried out as Wally, Miliana, and Simon held on to him while Rob stood by their side, with the other slaves near them. I don't know, but I want it to stop, Miliana cried out in fear. Damn it, why do I have to be so useless at a time like this? Wally cried out while falling on his knees in frustration and banged his fist on the ground. I couldn't help Urza to get Jello back. Hang in there, Power Ranger, Rob said in a worrisome tone as they were facing a dangerous enemy. They watched the two female rangers fighting against the undead group of cultists, with the Horn women witnessing every on the sidelines and staying away from this personal hell. Rangers, please win. I have to see Kagura again, Simon thought while wishing them luck. Back to the attack in the docks. Jiru and Yui were fighting the undead cultists the best they could. Jiru had multiple enemies all to herself and trying to calm herself. Okay, you freaks, bring it, she said as she held up her fists. Two of them lunged at Jiru with their swords raised and she shot out her right arm, giving one a solid punch to the chest as the other made a run for her, and she lifted her knee up to jab him in the solar plexus that knocked the two cultists over. Another one reached for the Wolf Ranger and managed to grab onto her, but Jiru dislodged from his grab and appeared directly behind him, kicking him in the back and making the cultist front flip over the ground. A fourth enemy started to run at her with a spear thrusting at her, but she jumped up to avoid the attack while igniting her left kneecap with dark purple energy to strike the cultist in the chest, sending him falling back into three others to make them all fall in one shot. She stood up quickly before kicking one solidly in the chest to her right, then ducked under two incoming sword swings as they tried to attack her again, only for Jiru to break their blades with two elbow jabs before double punching them, knocking the two men down into a pile of rubble. Another group of enemies charged at the girl with the intent to kill the ranger, as Jiru did a few quick Muay Thai QLD moves before bringing her morpher to her side to try something new. Wolf Morpher, Jiru shouted while flicking a switch on her morpher with her right hand, as the sound of a bell went off. Then suddenly, in a flash of purple light, a Muay Thai arena that had the Jungle Fury logo in the center of the ring appeared with Jiru and the group of undead cultists in it, which surprised everyone watching as they didn't expect that to happen. Jiru just lets a smirk appear under her helmet, as using the Muay Thai arena will limit her opponent's movements so she can deal with them. Let's dance, Jiru declared while rushing in with her opponents doing the same thing. The Wolf Ranger leaped to a nearby enemy to knee strike them back, then elbow jabs another enemy on the right before spinning to the right for a left roundhouse kick at two more men's faces. Jiru stroked another cultist on her right side in the gut with a right knee jab, as another foe charged into the Ranger with Jiru performing a reverse spinning back kick to the left, countering the attack, making him front flip backward on the ring. Then she runs up to the right and knee jabs a man in the stomach before turning on the left at another cultist to block a sword swing with her left gauntlet. Jiru swiftly kicks the man's left leg to make him fall back. Then the punk rock girl leaps back to the end of the arena next to the ropes as all the fallen enemies begin to stand back up. As this happened, Jiru ignited her right kneecap with dark purple energy before leaping forward in a burst of speed to knock all of the undead cultists down again. She stopped her by landing her feet on the arena's ropes to perform an aerial backflip at the last remaining cultist, then stroke the top of his head with a knee jab, causing an explosion that envelops them all, and as the Muay Thai arena disappears from sight like it even wasn't there, with Jiru jumping out of the flames. Perfectly fine. Yui jumps onto the top shipping container with a front flip to kick a cultist in the chest and knocks it off to the ground while being surrounded by a number of enemies on the container. Here I go, Yui said in a fight stance as one of the cultists attacked her from behind with an axe. The Pink Ranger quickly turns around to her left to deliver a right kick to the man's face to stop the attack, then right kicks another enemy in the abdomen before she upper left kicks the jaw of a third cultist, sending him falling back, as Yui then shifts her body back to avoid hands a cultist on the right. A cultist with a sword attacks Yui from behind only for the girl to stop the attack midway with her right arm before pushing the enemy back to the left, hooking him in the face with a punch, and then jumping back multiple times with a side spin, dodging more attacks until she reaches the edge of the shipping container. Dino Saber, Yui shouted while pulling out her primary melee weapon and taking a sword stance. Time to clean house. She then ran back into the fray. Yui swung her Dino Saber with both hands at a quick pace, hitting 2 cultists from both of her sides in an instant before backflipping back to avoid 2 more enemies lunging for her. The quiet girl landed back on the ground, off the shipping container, stuck out her sword, and spun around, hitting the 3 undead cultists that had appeared around her back before kicking out to the right and getting another cultist, knocking him back into a bunch of wooden barrels. Yui rushes forward to slash one cultist in the chest, then leaps at a second one before swinging her saber to cut him down. She jumps for a second time over a third enemy while kicking him in the back of the head before she rolls forward on the floor and quickly got back on her feet. The ranger continues her advance. A cultist with an axe leaped for her, jumping over his fallen allies, and Yui stopped running to hold up her blade, blocking the attack before spinning around to the right and slashing him upwards, hitting the cultist out of the way. 2 more foes jumped on Yui and grabbed her by the arms, but the ranger kicked back to do a backflip and knocked herself loose before kicking them both in the back, one at a time. Then the girl found herself surrounded by a bunch of enemies as they rushed at her. Dino Saber, Power Slash, Yui shouted while spiral spinning around in the air as her Dino Saber glowed pink and swung it at the incoming enemies. That took them all out in an instant, causing explosions to come off their bodies before gracefully landing on her knee to strike a cool pose with the cultists flying in different directions. How surprising. Such skill from 2 humans, Sayla muttered in a slightly impressed tone as she observed the rangers finishing off the last of her puppets with ease. Why, I even perceive that this is but a fraction of the whole. Is it possible that it even exceeds my own? Their strength will serve Tartaros and Lord Zeref well, she said as she watched the 2 female humans regroup with one another and share her down. You'll have to do better than that to stop us, Jiru shouted at her, because it's not enough. Yui agreed with seriousness. Sayla just shot them a cold gaze before speaking. Is that so, humans? Then why is that? She tilted her head slightly to the left. Because I'm starting to feel like I understand that magic of yours. It lets you control the corpses of others. Am I right? Jiru said in a confident tone. Sayla just crossed her arm under her breasts while still looking at the 2 heroes with her usual calm expression and a raised eyebrow. You are somewhat right about how my curse works, but you're still wrong. It's more than just controlling corpses, Sayla said to them. A curse? Yui asked in confusion. It's a power that we demons from the Book of Zeref possess, Sayla said coldly to them. Unlike you lowly humans that rely on magic. Sorry to break the news to you, but the power we possess isn't magic, Jiru said to her. It's not, Sayla asked in a curious tone. It's something that only we Power Rangers can use, Yui said. All the more reasons for you both to serve under me and my mistress, Sayla replied back while flicking her hair. Humans like you might be useful to Tartaros' goal. We'll never join you, Jiru shouted back while pointing at her before getting into a fight stance. Yui said while raising her Dino Saber. Strange, I never asked you 2 to come willingly, Sayla replied in an emotionless voice, unfolding her arms with a glare. Bow down before me now and summit to Tartaros or suffer my wrath, she ordered, her expression indecipherable. We'll never bow to you. Jiru and Yui both snapped at Sayla before rushing forward at their opponent. Disappointing, but not unexpected. Sayla sighed lightly before glaring darkened at the 2. Humans are quite easily swayed by their emotions. This makes you simply to manipulate, she said as they were getting closer to her. On such foolish beings, my power is wasted. She spoke in a cold tone. Then completely out of nowhere, Yui immediately swung her sword straight at Jiru, which surprised everyone watching, as sparks off her suit with the Wolf Rangers rolled on the ground before stopping a few feet away. Why Yui? What the hell, man? What did you just suddenly attack me like that? Jiru asked in great shock while recovering from the pain and getting up on one knee as she was holding the spot she got hit. We're on the same side. That wasn't me, Jiru, Yui said in a low shocked tone as her entire body was trembling. For some strange reason, my body just moved on its own without me in control. What? Jiru said in shock before standing. But how did that happen? I don't know. I still can't move my body for some reason. Yui then charged at Jiru without warning and swung her Dino Saber at her teammates again. But unlike last time, Jiru was prepared for it and moved out of the way in time by dodging to the left. Then Yui moved her blade in the same direction as her friend. while Jiru ducked under the attack before palm striking the quiet girl in the chest to push her back to get some distance. "This isn't my doing, Jiru," Yui shouted in a panicked tone, then rushed at Jiru again. "Get a hold of yourself, Yui," Jiru said while avoiding more sword swings at her as she backflipped over a metal barrel and used it as a shield to block the attacks. "You gotta stop this." "I'm trying to, but I can't," Yui shouted back, striking the metal barrel a few times before knocking it out of Jiru's hands. "My body just isn't listening to me anymore." She raised her Dino saber high before bringing it down on top of her teammate. Jiru caught the blade with both hands by clapping them together and shifting the weapon down to the side, as both hers and Yui's bodies pushed closer together. "What the hell is even happening right now?" Jiru thought as she was holding Yui in place, while said girl was trying to regain control of her body. "There's no way Yui would attack me like that unless..." She came to a conclusion. Her head drifted to Sayla, whose gaze remained unemotional as she watched the two rangers fighting each other. You're the one who's doing this, aren't you?" The ranger shouted at the demon woman. "Whatever it is you're doing to her, stop it right now and release her, damn it," she demanded, as Yui broke free from the hold and kicked Jiru away in pain. "Stop this, I don't want to hurt Jiru or any of my friends," Yui pleaded while trying so desperately to break free of the unknown force that was making her attack Jiru. But no matter what she tried, it wasn't working. "One thing I prefer about demons' tales, there is no such belief or word as mercy," Sayla stated bluntly. "You're not going to get away with this," Yui quietly said as her body moved on its own again and attacked her friend. "Damn you," Beach Jiru glowed, getting back up and got into a fighting stance to stop her teammate. As much noise was being made, Sayla wasn't fazed by the ranger's plea and continued to watch them fight each other. "My macro curse power is absolute. You rangers will have a demon tail ending," Sayla thought in confidence as she closed her eyes. As this was happening, the slaves were watching this in concern. "What the hell? Why are they fighting each other?" Wally shouted in confusion as he wasn't the only one who wanted answers. "I don't know, but something about this isn't right," Simon said with a worried look while sweat was running down his face. "Is it that woman's doing?" Liliana said in fear from watching this. "But why is she doing this?" Sho asked, not getting an answer. "What an incredible power this demon possesses," Rob muttered under his breath while holding the children close. Meanwhile, inside of the tower, upon hearing the name of the Hero Force Rangers, Jel's eyes widened slightly before he suddenly burst into laughter like a lunatic. "That's them," Jell shouted at Urza as he laughed wildly. "This is the incredible people you had so much faith in. They look like a bunch of goodies to shoes that couldn't even save a cat from a tree." His laughter soon died down as he wiped the water on his face off with his arm. "Then again, this one did manage to hit me, albeit while I was distracted." Jell admitted silently to himself that his body was still throbbing from Ren's earlier water attack. "Jell, I don't know what your damage is, but whether you like it or not, you're coming with us and getting off this island," Ren said in a stern tone, annoyed by Jell's arrogant attitude. The other rangers and Urza just watched the conversation from the side. Urza was unsure of what to do as her emotions were all over the place, with Kendo holding her shoulders. At Ren's comment, Jell's expression became one of pure rage as his eyes widened until his pupils were just tiny dots in a sea of white. "So you're going to stop me from completing the R system?" Jell started with a manic grin on his face as a pitch-black aura surrounded him. Ren could barely make out a humanoid figure hovering behind Jell as it stared at the rangers with a single slanted eye. "Don't do this, kid. You're going to regret it later," Ren warned the blue-haired boy in a stoic tone as his eyes narrowed. "I'll go first." "Darkness wave," Jell yelled maniacally as he threw his arm forward and fired off a large blast of dark energy from his hand directly. Ren didn't even flinch as the blast rapidly approached him before he suddenly disappeared from sight as the dark blast passed over the area where the ranger previously stood. "He's fast," Jell thought in surprise as his attack detonated upon a contact against one of the cavern's walls. The same thoughts were going through the minds of two individuals watching from the torture chamber above the battlefield, while Ultir could only ponder how Ren managed to be so fast at his age, as Kyoka was holding her to the ground with one well-placed foot on her back, had slightly different thoughts. "He's pretty fast for a human, huh?" Kyoka thought in interest as she was about to pick up on his movement a little despite his abnormal speed, while watching Jello move his head frantically from left to right to find where his opponent had disappeared. "It's not every day I run into such a human like this Power Ranger. He's got to have some skill to be able to move faster than the eye could see. He might even be strong enough to withstand my enhancements," she commented mentally before her eyes narrowed back to the battle below. "Come on out, you freak." Jello yelled furiously as he looked around the cavern for where that nuisance had disappeared to. I've got something real special for you and it has your name all over it. Don't you want your present? He called out as an orb of swirling darkness formed in his right palm. The sound of something clicking on the rocky ground in the distance caused Jello to instantly turn his head to his right and fling the orb in its direction. The orb crashed against a faraway wall only to then expand in size before fading away to reveal that a large part of the wall was now gone only for a round hole to take its place. Oh, look at what you made me do. Now I'll have to make you a whole new one. Jello shouted as 4 black orbs of swirling darkness formed in each of his hands. Don't think I forgot about our friend Zurza, because I got presents for every one of them. You can thank your so-called heroes for that one, he yelled. His threat echoed across the cavern. You're not going to do anything else. Ren's voice echoed across the room as Jello looked around again to see where the Rangers were. Suddenly, Ren appeared out of the wall in front of him, where he'd been using his chameleon powers to hide, which surprised Jello, Urza, Ultier, and Kyoka as they didn't expect that from the boy. This power belongs to Trent Fernandez Mercer, the White Dino Ranger. Due to the power of the White Dino gem, Trent's civilian powers allow him to blend into his background, akin to a chameleon. It is not true invisibility, but it is close. Camouflaging. Interesting, Kyoka thought in amazement while observing the boy. How the hell did you do that? Jello demanded while throwing the 4 black orbs of swirling darkness at Ren, only for the ranger to dodge the assault with ease. Far away in a safe distance from where Jello and Ren are, the heroes watch as the blue-haired boy tries to hit their leader to no avail, with Urza looking very worried about all of this. Ren spiral jumps upside down acrobatic over more black orbs before landing on one knee, then runs straight towards Jello as an explosion occurs behind him from the black orbs. Quit moving around and take my gift, you crowded. Jello yelled as he turned around with a psychotic smile on his face. Dark Crusher, he yelled psychotically as he fired off all 8 orbs toward Ren. Ren continued forward unfazed by the barrage of dark magic as he ducked and weaved through the barrage with practiced ease. Jello's psychotic smile turned into a look of shock as Ren easily closed the distance between them. When the ranger was close enough, he performed a flying front whirlwind kick Jello's solar plexus, causing the blue-haired child to spit up a glob of saliva and sending him crashing into one of the cavern's walls as fell down on his stomach so hard that a dust cloud in the air. Ren stood calmly as he stared at the dust cloud. His posture was relaxed, but only those with trained eyes could tell he was ready to move at a moment's notice. That moment was now as Ren jumped to the left before a large beam of darkness shot out of the dust cloud and engulfed the space he previously stood. The moment his feet touched the ground, Ren instantly broke into a mad dash forward alongside the beam by using his cheetah speed to increase his speed. The moment he saw a speck of blue through the dust cloud, Ren pulled his arm back before throwing a strong left palm strike straight into the face of a surprised Jello. The crazed blue-haired boy was sent crashing along the floor from the force of the blow. Jello barely managed to come to a skidding stop as he barely managed to stop himself as he gathered darkness magic in his hands, cloaking them in ebony gauntlets. Jello quickly looked up to see Ren charging towards him and, scowling defiantly at the ranger's skills, rushed forward as he covered his arms in darkness. Lupus Fang, Jello yelled, swinging his arm forward as the darkness formed into a ghost-like wolf head. Ren casually bent over backward as Jello's telegraphed attack harmlessly passed over his midsection. Before Jello could even pull his arm back, Ren's knee shot upward and connected with Jello's chin, horribly rattling the crazed boy's head as he was sent flying high into the air. Ren immediately jumped into the air after the boy and his right arm stretched out, taking hold of Jello's left ankle. What the hell are you doing, you damn? Jello could not finish that sentence as he found himself being spun through the air at rapid speeds, with Ren spinning his body around in midair while holding on to the blue-haired boy. The ranger eventually let go of the boy, and he slammed Jello straight onto the ground, the impact creating a large crater as Jello coughed up blood from the brutal blow. Ren slowly landed back on the ground. He walked up to the crater and looked down to find Jello lying down at the bottom of the crater. His eyes rolled over into the back of his head with blood pouring down his head and from the sides of his mouth. It's a good thing I'm holding back or else I'll kill the kid, Ren muttered as he looked down upon the motionless form of Jello, as part of him feeling pretty bad for beating up a little kid. Really didn't want to lay the pain on this kid, but Urza desperately wanted to save Jello. He was just wondering how her friend could have turned into such a horrible person. He was about to walk back to where his friends and Urza were when Ren heard movement coming from the crater. The ranger turned around to see Jello struggling to get off the ground only to collapse as he coughed up some blood. Don't think this is over yet, Jello stated as he tried to push himself off the ground. Ren just stared at the blue-haired child with an unreadable expression. I will complete Zaref's command, Jello muttered as Ren slid down the crater towards him. I will achieve true freedom. Zeref's Jello could not finish his declaration as Ren used his air ninjutsu to slam a blast of high-pressure wind at the crazed boy, the impact of the wind causing Jello to fly back into the wall of the crater that knocked him out cold. That's enough out of you, Ren said with an annoyed tone while holding out his left hand. Having enough of whatever it was Jello was muttering earlier. Ren, a female voice called out from above them, causing Ren to turn his attention upwards from an unconscious Jello to see Urza and his friends. Sup, guys, Ren called out to them as they looked down the crater where he stood. He then walked over to an unconscious Jello and placed him over his shoulders before using his jackrabbit DNA to leap out of the crater with ease, landing behind the others as they turned around to face them. Mission completely, he said holding on to the little boy. Looks like you've taken care of business as usual, Midoriya said to him with a little smile. Still, don't you think you went a little rough on him? Momo asked in concern while remembering the one-sided of the blue-haired boy. Maybe, but you know he wouldn't want to come with us willingly, Ren said shrugging his shoulders. You did give him the chance to stand down, but he failed to listen to your order, Takoyami said in agreement as force was necessary to stop Jello. Thank God you're alright, Ren. I was worried for a minute there, Urza said, relieved that the hero force ranger was unharmed as she walked up to him. Thanks, Urza, Ren replied nonchalantly. But I fought against those stronger than this kid despite the weird magic he was using though, he stated nonchalantly, causing Urza to turn towards her unconscious friend in Ren's arm. Jello, she thought sadly, remembering his earlier actions. Hello, Urza, Earth to Urza, are you there? Oase said as he waved his hand in front of Urza's face to get her attention. Having not noticed she was deep in thought, Urza was quickly snapped out of her thoughts by Oase's prodding as she turned to face the Rangers. What is it? Urza asked, trying not to look them in the eyes. Neither of them noticed that Jello's hand began to fidget slightly. You were just standing there looking at him for a while. Are you okay? Kendo asked her. It's just I can't believe he would act this way, Urza responded despondently. Her image of the kind boy who gave her a last name was shattered and replaced by an image of a crazed boy raving about finishing what the cultists had started. Maybe those cultists did something to completely brainwash him. Momo thought out loud as she once read that some victims under the effects of torture could be brainwashed. Why, you really think so? Urza asked in concern. He wasn't anything like this before, right? So it's possible with the proper help, Jello might be able to turn back to his old self, Midoriya said, making Urza look at him with hopeful eyes of getting Jello back to his old self. There's a way to bring the old Jello back, Urza hopefully thought to herself. I'll say our first mission as Power Rangers was a big success, Takoyami said with confidence. We saved the slaves and defeated all the cultists, so I say that's a mission accomplished, Kendo said with a grin. Anyway, we should get back to the others. If everything went as planned, then the others should be on the Legacy Gallon, Ren said casually as he began to head to the entrance he and his friends came from with the others following him. Yeah, I'm ready to leave this dump of places and head home, Oase said with his hands behind his head while following his leader. Indeed, the sooner we leave this place the better, Momo said as she didn't want to spend another minute longer in this horrible place. Today was something else, but I'm glad it's finally over, Midoriya said to them in relief. It's finally over then, Urza muttered with a happy expression. We finally got our freedom back. Unbeknownst to the group, the 9-demon gate came out of the hole leading to the disciplinary chamber wearing a scowl on her face before it transformed into a malicious smile. A few moments ago, in the discipline chamber, as the Rangers and Urza were talking about Jello's emotional state, Altair glared at the group from her spot on the ledge. She grits her teeth in frustration at how much those Power Rangers were unknowingly ruining her plans, forcing herself to hold back a snarl. Kyoka just smirked in amusement at the girl's anger. Well, that went down faster than anticipated, Kyoka stated in a mocking tone. Oh, don't feel bad, little girl. How could you have known that a human with actual combat experience would be on this island to beat up your meat puppet? It's not like you knew how today's events would go down ahead of time. I mean, that's unrealistic, she stated in a cheeky tone that was a mixture of sarcasm and mock sympathy. Kyoka then bent down as she pulled Altair's head up by her ear to his mouth. Don't worry, little girl, Kyoka muttered smoothly into Altair's ear, causing the girl to growl in disgust at how this demon managed to get the drop on her. I'll fix this problem so you can go back to your guild's airship and go on pretending to hate your icicle of a mother like the lying, treacherous whore you truly are, time girl. I have work to do for Tartaros, she muttered slowly as Altair's eyes widened at her words before she felt her head fall back onto the stone floor. Altair quickly forced her head up to see the demon biff that paralyzed her exit the chamber into the cavern outside. Feeling her strength starting to return to her arms, Altair quickly went about crawling over to the opening to find herself peering into the cavern to witness the incoming spectacle. Real time, with the Power Rangers and Urza. Just as the group was about to leave in the tunnel, they were stopped as the sound of clapping started to fill the cavern and footsteps came crawling from the shadows. Bravo, that was quite the show you put. A strange female voice Urza and the Rangers had never heard before yelled out from behind them, causing the group to turn their heads to the hole in the wall that led to the disciplinary chamber. What they saw was an adult woman who didn't look mostly human in the slightest. Such a marvelous fight is what I would say, Kyoka said before her all-too-cheery smile quickly transformed into a dirty smile, as the Rangers and Urza could feel the hairs on the back of their necks start to tingle. This woman's presence feels similar to that of a demon. Tommy thought with narrowed eyes as the Master Morpher was picking up demonic energy from the woman. This woman, Ren Insane was going off like wild as he could tell this woman was dangerous. Even his encounter with Overhaul didn't feel this bad as he looked at Kyoka with a glare. What's this dangerous feeling I'm getting off this lady? Urza thought, unsettled as the demon woman jumped off the ledge and landed on the ground with ease. Takoyami, be careful. This chick is really bad news, Dark Shadow said in a cautious thought. Understood, Takoyami's mentality replied as he could feel that this woman was giving off some kind of evil presence, unlike anything he had felt before. Midoriya, Kendo, Momo, and Oase also had a dreadful feeling in their stomachs by looking at Kyoka, and until like the cultists, this woman in front of them was a real threat. Who the hell are you? Ren asked as he didn't even try to hide the hostility in his voice, with the rest of his teammates being on guard. A menacing smirk came across the demon's face before speaking. Let us introduce ourselves. I'm one of the 9 demon gates, Kyoka. Kyoka said as each of the Rangers' eyes widened in surprise at the name. Your name is Kyoka, Oase couldn't help but ask. Yes, it is. What's the matter? Why shock all of a sudden? Kyoka asked in utter curiosity. It's just that a friend of ours has the same name as yours, Midoriya said nervously to her. Hearing this made Kyoka blink a few times in surprise as she didn't expect that before chuckling in amusement. Oh, I see. I didn't expect to hear that, she said with a smile before stopping laughing. Small world, wouldn't you say? Yes, it is I suppose, Momo said in an awkward tone. Wait, Tartaros, as in one of the Dark Guild, Takoyami said out loud with widened eyes as everyone turned to him. What do you mean by that, Takoyami? Do you know something about them? Kendo asked him in concern after hearing the sound in his voice. I'm pretty sure all of you already know about Dark Guilds from our investigation, Takoyami said, getting a nod from his teammates. Well, apparently rumor has it that Tartaros is said to be the most dangerous one of them all, he said, making the others' eyes widen in surprise at the information. Why aren't you well informed? Kyoka said with an evil smile on her face as she got their attention back on her. From out of all the dark guilds in Earthland, we at Tartaros reign over them all. The other dark guilds can even hold a candle to us concerning the fact that all members of Tartaros are demons. She revealed that the Rangers were greatly shocked by hearing this. Why you're a D-demon, Midoriya said while pointing at her with shaking hands. That means you are a demon from the Book of Zeref, he shouted. Urza, who heard this good eye widened in surprise as she just recently learned about dark guilds from Rob, and was shocked to know that this woman came from one of the most dangerous ones of all and that she wasn't human. I should have known, Tommy thought in concern as he never imagined that his students would run into one of Zeref's demons. Her power is on the same level as Prince Olympius, maybe even more. If you are one of his demons, then that makes you one of our enemies, Ren stated to her in rage. Oh, don't be so hostile, Kyoka chuckled. But I believe it's time that you introduced yourself as well. I mean, it's only fair, right? She said in a slightly mock-politely tone. All of the Rangers' faces turned bitter as they didn't know what to say until Ren was the first to speak up. Ren Amamiya, Ren said in a non-friendly tone. Momo ye Yarazu, Momo said, introducing herself. Fumikage Takoyami, Takoyami said to her. Itsuka Kendo, Kendo said with an uneasy look. Oase Yosu, Oase said. Urza Scarlet, Urza spoke up. Izukumidoriya, and we're the Power Rangers Hero Force, Midoriya said with a little nervousness. Yes, I already heard that from your friend over there, Kyoka said, pointing at Ren. However, I must say that you've put on a spectacular performance considering how unprepared your opponent was. She spoke as she looked towards the group with great interest. So I would like to make an offer to you Rangers. What is this offer you speak of? Takoyami cautiously asked as he had a feeling he wasn't going to like it one bit. You see, I'm what you call a recruiter. My master had foretold of a battle coming in the future, and we need as many forces as we can if we hope to do this, Kyoka said as her face slowly contorted, her lips growing to become a maniacal smirk. She looked at Rangers with a deranged sense sprawling all around her. "So I ask that you Power Rangers join the ranks of Tartaros," she said, making everyone look at her in shock. Altair up above was shocked to hear Kyoka offer them a place in Tartaros. "You want us to your guild?" Momo asked, still surprised. "Of course, only if you all can survive my curse and prove your worth, then you are more than welcome to be a part of our cause," Kyoka said to them. "Your curse?" Kendo asked in confusion. "Yes, the demons of Tartaros do not use magic like you humans. Instead we use curses," Kyoka said, with her body started to release a green aura as she was surrounded by it. "My curse that I use is quite unique. It's called enhancement. It allows me to enhance my target's bodies in any way I see fit, lest it be strength or physical sensations. However, those who cannot withstand my strength increasing are killed and turned into black paper dolls." She explained her power to them, which made the others look horrified by the information. "That's an interesting and dangerous power to have," Holo Tommy thought, as this was new even to him. "A power that can enhance a person's body," Midoriya thought as he started to mutter quietly as his old habits were acting up again. "Midoriya," Kendo said, snapping him out of his muttering phase. "Now's not the time for that right now," she scolded him. Sorry," Midoriya said in embarrassment as he got his head back in the game. "Why the hell would you tell us how your power works?" Oase asked in confusion. "Wouldn't that put you at a huge disadvantage? Even if I told you, it wouldn't do you any good in the end," Kyoka said as the aura dispelled from around her before holding up her hand to the heroes. "So what do you say, Rangers? Join Tartaros and I promise you that you can have anything your heart desires," she offered in a tempting manner while speaking with a smooth tone. In silence, Urza and Altair observe how Rangers will react to the offer. Each of them had a look of annoyance and anger written all over their faces. They remember how heroic this team of heroes is and didn't think they would join Tartaros' ranks. "Sorry, but that's going to be a big-ass hell no," Ren replies with a sneer as he breaks the silence, and he surprises Kyoka, Urza, and Altair for casually dismissing her. Kyoka frowned at this before lowering her hand. "And why is that?" she parroted. "Your attempts to fool us are useless, demon," Takoyami states, completely uninterested. "Joining you is the same as becoming puppets for you people as we lose our freedom," Momo said to her with a glare. "Besides, we have no interest in this petty war you're talking about," Kendo said to her as it stroked a nerve in the demon. "Petty," Kyoka said with her eyes dangerously narrowing at the Rangers. "Yeah, petty lady. We don't give a shit about your war or your stupid guild. We're heroes, not villains," Oase shouted at her. "If we were to submit to any of you, then there wouldn't be any meaning for us to have become heroes in the first place," Midoriya said, finishing to tell the demon as a sardonic smile formed across his face. "We fight against evil, not help it." "Really? I must have misheard you all," Kyoka said plainly as an evil grin grew on her face. "Care to repeat that for me?" she muttered to herself, the edge of her lips twitching upwards as she finished speaking. "We said we aren't joining shit, lady. Are you just that stupid?" Ren stated bluntly out loud. Urza watched the demon's reactions to the Ranger's answer. Her eyes suddenly narrowed even deeper as Plan didn't like the answer given to her. Did she just hide the tiniest of smiles right there? Urza mentally observed, noticing that everything about this Kyoka action screamed one thing in her mind: danger. "That's right, you monster," Urza shouted out at the demon with an angry face. "Me and everyone else are leaving this place for good and you can't stop us," she said seriously, causing Kyoka's eyebrow to quirk in interest as her mismatched eyes narrowed. "Are they idiots?" Altair muttered from her position up above in surprise. "They planning on fighting a demon of Tartaros?" she thought, as they're going to get themselves killed. "Really now?" Kyoka said as her eyes were now on the little red-haired. "Well, that's too bad to hear," she muttered as she closed her eyes. "Because that just means I can't let you all leave then," she stated darkly, causing the Rangers' eyes to narrow as they took a step in front of Urza and got into defense stances. Wait, what do you mean you won't allow us to leave?" Urza shouted in question, glaring at the demon. "Oh no, I think you misunderstand me, Red," Kyoka stated as she held up her hands in a placating gesture. "You and the Rangers can leave," she said as she pointed to Urza and the Rangers respectively. "It's just your little buddies, that jello boy over there who is being held, and all those no-name humans that can't, so to speak," Kyoka clarified, causing the Power Rangers and Urza to harden their glares at her. "Oh, don't look at me like that. I'm giving you two an opportunity to leave out of here with no trouble at all. Look, my hands are in the air to prove it," the demon shouted as she lifted her hands in the air as if to prove she wasn't going to do anything to stop them. "You're lying," Ren stated with a serious expression before lying Jello's unconscious body on the ground. You have no intention of letting any of us leave here in one piece, he said as the Red Lion Wild Zord was telling Ren not to trust this woman because the Wild Zord could sense darkness in her heart. Do you really think we're going to leave our friends behind here at this wretched place just because you say so? Urza yelled, raising her weapons at her. We don't make deals with villains, Kyoka, Midoriya shouted at her. This caused Kyoka to just stare at the heroes and the little girl for a couple of seconds before shaking her head in disappointment. I believe that's quite enough, Kyoka said with a frown while crossing her arms. You pitiful fools could have made good additions to Tartaros. The demon smirked maliciously before using her power. Suddenly, Urza could feel pain in her body as the girl felt like she had just been stabbed. Her eyes shot wide, a loud scream making her lurch from the pain she was inflicted as she dropped down on the floor, making the rangers look at her in great worry. Urza, the hero force rangers shouted to the little girl in surprise as Momo and Kendo kneed down to her in concern, while Ren, Midoriya, Takoyami, and Awase glared hateful at the demon. What the hell did you do to her? Takoyami demands her hateful. The art of enhancing humans' pain grants me such pleasure, Kyoka stated darkly with a crazed cheek-to-cheek grin as she snapped her fingers. Before they could realize what was happening, Urza let out an even greater scream as she felt pain far sharper than the previous one from before. Guys, she's using her curse to enhance Urza's pain receptors, Midoriya shouted to his friends while realizing her power. You fucking bitch, Awase shouted as he and the other boys pulled out their guns at her. That's enough, Ren shouted while the 4 boys started to fire at the demon woman. Kyoka in response just smirked before raising her finger to extend a long green whip from her claws to deflect the gunfire without issues. Hey, Urza, are you okay? Momo asked the redhead while holding on to her. Yeah, I'm fine. Urza could not finish that sentence as she felt pain throughout her body. Just hold on. Everything's going to be okay, Momo said to her. That damn monster. How could she do this to a child? Kendo said with rage while helping the girl back on her face. The gunfire stopped as Kyoka just gave them a sadistic smirk on her face. When Zera finally returns to this world, it will mark the new era for us demons and the end of mankind, Kyoka declared before sending the green whip at the rangers at ripped speed, as Ren immediately got in front of everyone. Zikato, Ren shouted while releasing a massive black-bluest aura around himself that created powerful pressure to stop the green whip. This power belonged to Gerard, the Black Lion Warrior. Zikato's power grants him several special abilities. Kyoka had a very surprised look on her face. Not because her attack was stopped, it was that this human just used an unknown power that she'd never before. It wasn't magic or a curse, but it felt dark, almost similar to a curse's power. Detroit Smash. A voice broke Kyoka out of her thoughts as she looked to her left side to see Midoriya covered in green bioelectricity, who was using one for all at 10% to deliver a high-speed punch to her face. As the fighting began, Altier, Kendo, Momo, and Urza was watching from the distance. Kyoka jumped back out of the way but wasn't quick enough as she blocked the powerful punch with her talons and could feel the impact of the blow, which pushed her way back before regaining her balance. The Etherius didn't have time to recover as Dark Shadow was on top of her as he was going to punch the demon, making her malicious grin before jumping in the air to avoid the attack, and Kyoka threw herself forward, lashing out with those bird-like claws at Takoyami. Takoyami dodged swiftly to the right and soon, Awase and Ren leaped at Kyoka, and the three began to fight in hand-to-hand combat with Kyoka blocking each of their moves easily. As Awase jumped up to do a roundhouse kick to push him away on the floor a few feet by swinging her claws at his leg. Then Ren does a spinning straight kick into the demon's stomach that she avoids as he moves forward for a strong right hook. Kyoka then raised her right arm for her sharp claws to extend far enough at Ren for him to get carried up high and knock him into the ceiling before falling down to the ground in pain. Haya, Midoriya, and Takoyami soon joined the fur and attacked her from behind with a double drop kick. But Kyoka leaped forward to evade the assault before turning to face the two, with a savage shriek leaving her lips. Midoriya leaped forward quickly to attack first with another punch, only for Kyoka to react quickly enough to grab his arm and use her curse to enhance Midoriya's pain receptors, which made him howl in agony. Takoyami charged at her right side before Kyoka switched places with Midoriya while throwing him in Takoyami, then summoned his Dark Shadow to catch Midoriya instead of him getting hit by his friend, as Bird Boy shifted his body to avoid his company to continue his attack at the demon. Takoyami threw a few quick jabs and kicks as Kyoka long claws swiped the air to deflect each blow before pushing him away on the ground. You humans are quite strong, Kyoka acknowledged as she held out her claws, but not strong enough to fight against a demon. Ren and Awase jumped back into attack by front flipping near Kyoka to throw a few punches and jabs at her while she was blocking them. Midoriya, who recovered from his pain, ran up next to them to kick Kyoka before she jumped back to avoid the kick. Not noticing Tokoyami quickly running in front of her and summoning Dark Shadow to punch the evil woman, with the demon holding up her to block the attack with a smirk across her face. Unfortunately for her, Tokoyami tipped into the power of the Black Energem to enhance his body and Dark Shadow's strength as the gem glowed brightly in his pocket. Tokoyami and Dark Shadow both punched the demon's arms simultaneously, creating a black massive shockwave that breaks through her defenses, much to Kyoka's surprise as her eyes widened in both shock and pain, while she was sent flying back. Malorium Orvis. Oase used his ninja steel powers to cast the spell on himself in order to teleport behind Kyoka before she couldn't hit the wall. Burns. Dragon's Ire, Raging Fire. He held out his left hand, and a small blue dragon appeared in a mist around his left wrist. It spewed out fire, hitting Kyoka and making her slightly scream in pain, with her body covered in flames, pushing towards Ren and Midoriya. Both rangers ran full speed at their opponent with her guard down for a brief moment, with Midoriya leaping high into the air, and Ren harnessing one of his animal spirits for an attack. Rhino Power, Ren shouted while his right arm was covered in an orange aura as his hand turned into a sharp blade. He then slashes upwards at Kyoka, which deals her severe damage, sending sparks flying from her body and making her fly in the air straight at Midoriya. This power belonged to Dominic Hargan, the Jungle Fury Rhino Ranger. His animal spirit is the spirit of the rhino. Manchester Smash, Midoriya shouted while flipping forward to bring down an axe kick to Kyoka's skull that shatters her helmet and sent her crashing straight into the ground at high speed, causing a big shockwave that shook the whole area and broke apart most of the floor, and rubble and smoke flew around, covering the spot that Kyoka fell in. The four rangers managed to regroup with Kendo, Momo, and Urza as they were covering themselves from the rubble and smoked, with everything slowly dying down to see a Carter-smoked hole that had the demon woman in it. Altair could only watch from her perch in surprise as she saw the rangers putting up a fight against one of the 9 demon gates, and managed to get a few good hits in on her. Getting up now that she could feel her legs again, she quickly looked around the area around the smoke to see the rangers next to one another with Urza. Momo then placed Urza onto her feet. "Are you okay to stand, Urza?" she asked as she and Kendo helped keep her steady. "I'm alright, Momo, but thank you for asking," Urza said thankfully, with her strength returning before asking, "Is it over? Did you manage to defeat her?" "No, far from it," Ren said in a serious tone as his eyes never left Kyoka's smoked Carter. "She's way too tough to go down that easily." "Yeah, the only thing we did was manage to stop her for a moment," Midoriya said, stopping his quirk while his guard was still up. "And sometimes tell me this demon hasn't even shown what she could truly do yet," Tokoyami said in concern. "Which makes things about get rough," Oase said with a serious nod. "Urza, things are going to start getting insane from here on out, so go hide with Jello until this is over," Kendo told the girl in a serious manner. Before the redhead could say something, a rumbling sound made everyone turn to the smoking Carter as the dust cleared to show Kyoka standing back up with a deadly grin on her face. Kyoka's helmet was gone, revealing her face with a trail of blood running down her forehead, and most of her outfit was slightly damaged as she was covered in a few injuries, but it didn't look like her wounds were affecting the woman that much. "Great, she's back up. Urza, grab a hold of Jello so I can get you somewhere safe," Ren declared as he and the others got into fighting stances, with Urza grabbing Jello's unconscious body by his shoulders. "Everyone wait," Urza called out to the team of heroes, causing them to listen. Looking back, the rangers saw Urza stare at them with a worried but determined look. "Please be careful, guys," she warned the young heroes softly. "I want to leave this island and all its nightmares behind just as much as the others, but that doesn't mean I'm going to leave anyone behind so we can escape. That includes Jello, and most importantly, all of you. So go kick that demon's butt so we can all finally put this nightmare behind us," she declared. The bright determination shone through her only eye. The Hero Force Rangers could only grin as they nodded the scarlet-haired girl's declaration. "Right," Midoriya shouted with a determined look. "Concerned it done," Kendo said with a grin. "We got this, Urza, so just sit back and watch the show," Ren said to her before holding up his right hand at her. A haze of energy came out of it, surrounding both her and Jello, and then suddenly they vanished from sight. Did he just make them disappear into thin air? Altair thought in complete shock, trying to figure out how someone could do that until Urza and Jello appeared next to her and the girl, which made her jump back in surprise. What the hell? This power belonged to Sam, the SPD, Omega Ranger. The telelocal ray projection is Sam's unique ability that emits streams of hazy, transparent radiation that transport objects or people across variable distances at will. be they short-range to even remote locations. Urza had a stunned look on her face upon what happened to her before turning to Altair next to her in the torture chamber, which surprised the redhead as she didn't expect to see anyone else there. The two girls stared at each other for a few seconds in awkward silence. Huh? Urza said, looking at the purple-haired girl without knowing what to say. Crap, she saw me, Altair thought, in a panicked tone. She gritted her teeth as her hiding spot was exposed by that ranger, and this girl knew of her existence. This is their fault, and now this girl needs to die, she thought darkly as shock transformed into an ice-cold rage, as she was about to use her magic to kill Urza. Who are you? Urza began to ask her until she was cut off. Well, aren't you full of surprises? Kyoka said in an amusing tone for both girls to her. That's right, the demon, Altair muttered to herself as she moved out of her hiding spot and looked back out to see Kyoka standing in front of the 6 rangers. Have to worry about her later. Urza quickly but quietly followed from behind to witness the battle unfold, as she just assumed that this purple-haired girl was probably another slave that those cultists tortured and would have to ask who she was later when the fighting was over. Back down below, the Rangers and 9 Demon Gate were straight each other down with the UA. Students having a serious expressions on their faces. That was an inspiring you can do it speech that human child gave you Rangers. It almost makes it a shame that she left you to do her dirty work. Almost reminds me of someone else I met today. Kyoka pondered as she shot a look towards the discipline chamber to spot both Urza and Altair hiding while watching everything. You all truly are strong for a couple of humans. If I was an ordinary person then that could have killed me, she said in a tone of interest before using her tongue to lick some of the blood running down her face. Now I'm even more interested in having you join Tartaros as my personal servants, she declared with a crazy look in her eyes. But if you choose to not, Kyoka slowly pivoted with a narrowed vision. Then I'll show you humans exactly how terrifying the power of the netherworld really is and the hell the 9 demon gates can unleash. She threatened the heroes. So what's it going to be, Rangers? To her surprise, none of the Rangers felt threatened by what Kyoka said, as they just glared deeply at her with the looks of heroes ready to take down a villain. If anything, it only made the Hero Force Rangers resolve to defeat the demon of Tartaros even stronger than before. How's this for an answer? Ren said bluntly, as he and the others pulled out their morphers and ranger keys. Ready? He asked his teammates. Ready? They shouted back at him. Urza smiled when she saw this as she knew what was coming. But both Kyoka and Altair had questionable looks on their face as they didn't recognize those items in the hero's hands. It's morphin' time, they all shouted together as they activated their morphers. Awase, Kendo, Takoyami, and Momo flick the Mobilate morphers open, then hold up the Pirate Legacy keys with their right hands before flicking them open to reveal their keys. Midoriya, on the other hand, flicks the Legacy cellular case open, then holds up the Pirate Legacy silver key with his right hand before putting the key in his morpher case and closing it. The 5 Rangers with the Mobilate morphers quickly twisted their bodies to the right side in their own unique way before posing with the Pirate Legacy keys forward and the morphers across their chest. Midoriya, on the other hand, crossed his arms with his left arm in front before pushing them forward, posing with his morpher. Pirate change, they shouted together before Ren, Awase, Kendo, Takoyami, and Momo twisted their body once more, then put their keys into their morphers as they turned the lock. Midoriya, meanwhile, quickly shifted his body to the left to strike a pose, then raised his Legacy cellular in the air. He then moves his hand back down, holding his morpher behind his left side, and then pushes a button on the device with his right hand. When that happened, the Mobilate split open to reveal 2 blades on the top of the morphers. They glowed red as Ren, Awase, Kendo, Takoyami, and Momo then thrust their Mobilates forward in front of themselves, while each of them got into different poses. Midoriya, on the other hand, thrusts the Legacy cellular forward in front of himself with his right arm back balled in a fist posing, while his Legacy cellular was scanning the Pirate Legacy silver key from inside the case. Then big X's of different colors came out of the Rangers' morphers and zoomed back at them, changing their clothes into a black leotard with the Pirate Legacy logo on the center of their chests, and a pair of white gloves. Another big X's of different colors zoomed at them again, forming their vests and boots. Suddenly, 2 smaller X's of different colors appeared behind each of them and formed their helmets with the Pirate Legacy logo appearing next to the foreheads of the helmets, except for Midoriya, whose helmet just appeared on his head with a silver anchor, completely the transformation as all their helmets briefly shined for a moment. After the morph was complete, Urza had a look of excitement on her face from seeing the Rangers morph again, while Altair and Kyoka both had a look of surprise, nervousness, and confusion on their faces with widened eyes. Red Pirate Legacy Ranger, Ren shouted while flicking his vest collar with his right hand. Blue Pirate Legacy Ranger, Oace shouted while merely tilting his head down, as his right hand made it slightly like he was adjusting his helmet. Yellow Pirate Legacy Ranger, Kendo shouted while crossing her left arm across her chest with her right elbow on her left hand before she waved down in a gesture, giving a peace sign. Green Pirate Legacy Ranger, Takoyami shouted while shifting his body a bit, putting his hands on his thighs, and rubbing them slightly as he introduced himself. Pink Pirate Legacy Ranger, Momo shouted while raising her right hand before lowering it to her chest as if introducing herself elegantly, slightly bowing to her audience. Silver Pirate Legacy Ranger, Midoriya shouted while holding his word longer than the others as he raised his right hand in the air and balled his left hand in a fist, holding it to his side. His right hand then slowly descended down as he held it forward before spinning around to the right, and then spreading his arms out wide, striking a pose. Then suddenly, a giant black flag with the Pirate Legacy Rangers logo on it appears behind them, as the pirate flag was waving freely. Power Rangers, Ren shouted before he and the rest of his teammates started to get into different poses. Pirate Legacy, the 6 of them shouted together in sync for everyone to hear, as the power of the combined morph was chucked with enough grid energy that caused a powerful explosion behind them, leaving everyone watching astounded in awe. Ren had hoped that the sight of this was enough to terrify Kyoka to the point that she would have regretted picking a fight with the team of heroes, which it successfully did as Kyoka's eyes slightly widened in surprise at this unknown power that sent a small tingle down her spine. This power, Kyoka whispered in shock from both the morph and grid energy she felt. Up above in the torture chamber, Altair and Urza both watched the ongoing battle between the Rangers and the demon. What the hell did they just do? Did they just use Requip magic? Altair thought in wide-eyed surprise at the Rangers' appearance, as they transformed into colorful costume heroes and used an unknown power she felt that wasn't magic at all. And what was that unbelievable power I just felt? It didn't feel the slightest trace of magic, she thought in confusion at the unfamiliar terms. Her eyes focused on the Pirate Legacy Rangers down below. You got this, guys. Show that monster who's boss. Urza's mentality cheered them on while looking down below. Then we can leave this place together. Here's your final warning, Ren said, getting Kyoka attention back on them. Get in our way, Kendo said seriously while pointing her sword at the demon. And we'll take you out. Oace finished the threat while pointing his own sword at her. We're leaving this place with everyone, Momo declared out loud. So begone back from whence you came, demon. Takoyami spoke in his usual tone. Cause we're the Power Rangers, Midoriya announced with a passionate tone. Hiya. The Rangers all posed together as a team to show how serious they are to the demon of Tartaros. Oh what, really now? Kyoka soon grew a menacing smile across her face before speaking. I can't wait to break all of you. She then got into a combat stance. Well, see about that, you demon scum, Ren said, pointing his legacy gun at her. Let's make this showy. He began to fire shots at the demon as it was a sign that the battle had started. Kyoka only smirked before swiping at the Rangers while avoiding the gunfire, as she was going to attack Ren first. But before she could take another step, Momo and Oace were the first to sweep forward at the demon while switching their weapons with each other, as Oace had 2 blades in his hand and Momo had 2 guns in hers. You're ours now, demon, Momo declared at the demon. Momo started firing her guns as she advanced at her foe, while Kyoka was having a hard time blocking the gunfire with her large forearms, with some of them hitting her in the process. Meanwhile, Oace shoved the sharp, dangerous weapons right through Kyoka's stomach, only for her to move out of the way in time to get gazed at by the legacy sabers. But that didn't stop the Blue Ranger's assault as he swung his body back around to strike at the demon with his left sword that was blocked with her right arm. Then Momo appeared right next to Kyoka's other side to pistol whip her opponent, which makes Kyoka swing her other arm at the Pink Ranger chest that pushes her back on the floor in pain, with Oace attacking her with his other blade. But Kyoka used her enhancement curse to strengthen herself and quickly pushed the Blue Ranger away before punching him in the face and sending the Ranger across the other side of the room. Kendo and Takoyami approached the demon woman next, as they already switched their weapons too, with Takoyami holding 2 guns and Kendo holding 2 swords in their hands, while Kendo jumped right next to Kyoka and attacked first. Hiya, Kendo shouted while spiral spinning herself at the demon. Kyoka attempted to run towards the Yellow Ranger to block the blades by extending her talons to whip Kendo a few away, as Kendo shifted her body to land on her feet. At the same time, Takoyami fired a few shots at Kyoka that did some damage, making her turn to the Green Ranger, and a blazing fury in her eyes. Then she rushed at the boy with a burst of speed as her right claw ready to tear him apart, but Takoyami made to the side at his left to barely dodges the attack, with the boy sent a high kick right at her back neck. To slow human, Kyoka stated while ducking under the kick and moving back a bit with the 4 rangers charging at her with Midoriya and Ren joining in. Kyoka then quickly extends multiple green whips from her claws to attack the 4 rangers with the whips moving at a blinding speed. Kendo and Tokoyami were hit directly by the whips and sparks flew off their suits as they let a scream of pain while falling back on the ground, but Ren and Midoriya blocked away the whips using their weapons, shocking Kyoka with how they reacted so easily. Ren was the first to charge at Kyoka, raising his sword and brought it down onto Kyoka, with her taking a step back to evade the blade, but at the same time Midoriya ran up to her and spun to the right for a left kick straight into the demon's gut, which connects successfully, as Kyoka lets out a groan from the pain. "Now who's too slow?" Midoriya said back at her as he wasn't finished yet. The Silver Ranger used his momentum to turn back around in front of Kyoka to quickly swing his legacy spear diagonally upward at the demon, making sparks and smoke come off her body. Then he attacked again with another quick strike straight across her before Ren ran right up to Midoriya and swing his legacy saber at Kyoka a few. This made the demon woman scream in pain before the counterattack on the 2 boys as she swung her claws at them. But yet again they stopped her attack without much trouble by blocking her claws, with Midoriya thrust his spear forward at her chest, pushing Kyoka slightly back, which took advantage of by shots her a few times. Before Kyoka could recover from the assault on her, she was shot even more by Momo, and Tokoyami from her backside did even more damage, as Oase rushed at her and constantly while skillfully attacking the demon with a dual-wielding sword style that Kyoka fell victim to. She managed to block one of the right swords with her left arm as the left sword behind Oase's back, while each other was in place. "I'm not done," Oase stated before spinning around to break the hold in a whirling movement and swung his left legacy saber at Kyoka. Kyoka tried to block the attack, as it was just a feint attack for the Blue Ranger to trick the demon before he strokes with his other legacy saber to successfully hit her and finally finish his assault, with Kendo sending both her legacy saber flying straight at Kyoka and using her saber whips technique to hit the demon woman multiple times from far away. Soon she was plunging into the ground in pain from the Ranger's attacks. "Oh, those outfits you transformed into made you stronger." Kyoka couldn't help but smirked. "This shall be most interesting." "Yeah, for us at least," Oase stated, lunges forward at Kyoka first with his friends following suit. The Blue Ranger blade slashed at Kyoka with sparks flared as claws and blades shimmered against the other a few times before Oase spun around quickly to build up momentum for another strike then on her body, pushing the demon slightly back in pain. Kyoka backed off a bit, but Momo changed in next and went on the offensive, firing a close-range gun with her legacy guns. She constantly blasted and managed to get Kyoka to lose ground, but the demon smirked as every strike was deflected with backhanded strikes and then countered, striking the girl with sharp claws. "H-Ra." The Pink Ranger immediately jumped with a backflip to avoid the Kyoka's strike, before shooting at the demon, who was wide open in mid-air, and did some damage to her. At the same time, Kendo charged forward next as Kyoka was getting shot with both of her legacy saber blades glowing bright yellow as she just instead 2 ranger keys in the cylinders. "Final wave," a voice from Kendo's weapons said while the yellow rangers cross-slashing Kyoka at maximum strength with both of her swords. The force of the special attack collided with the demon claws, but to Kyoka's shock, she found herself pushed greatly back by a burst of power coming off the yellow ranger's blades and was hurt in the process. "What strength," Kyoka admired despite being overwhelmed, but her thoughts were broken by a gunfire aimed at her and noticed the Green Ranger shooting at her from the distance, and she evaded the shots by hopping around the gunfire. As Midoriya advanced at Kyoka next and managed to find an opening before jumping up in the air over the demon, then swung his spear downward at her, but Kyoka swung her arm upwards to counter Midoriya's attack. Kyoka was smirking before launching a counterattack at Midoriya, only to fail to notice that it was a trick to get her guard down again, with Midoriya smirking behind his helmet. "Kia!" Tokoyami cried out, suddenly rushing while also shooting at the demon before Kyoka blocked all the shots, and then swung her right talon at him. The Green Ranger dodges her claws by barrel rolling forward on the ground behind Kyoka, before quickly standing back up and turning to the demon woman to pistol whip her with his right legacy gun. He managed to nail her in the right side of her face before Kyoka struck with her other talons that Tokoyami blocked by swinging his left legacy gun at her, right before he summoned Dark Shadow for a frontal assault at the demon. Dark Shadow swiped horizontally across in opposite arches and swung his fist at Kyoka, who barely had time to react but evaded the blow by shifting her body to the side as Dark Shadow quickly came back around and started throwing a barrage of punches at the demon. Kyoka was dodging and blocking each of the punches to the best of her ability. Then she noticed the Silver Ranger coming from the right of her side for an attack with Dark Shadow charging in for another attack. Kyoka in return enhanced her body's speed with her curse to move back at a burst of speed, as Midoriya and Dark Shadow attacks missed with the demon sending her green whip to attack the two. But Ren rushes in at the last second to deflect the demon's green whip with his legacy saber, as he quickly swings to match the whip strikes while getting in close to Kyoka. Ren was slashed, kicking, and shooting at Kyoka in close combat, while Kyoka was fighting back with her own attacks, as the two were able to get a few good hits in on one another and avoid some of their strikes in a close quarters heated battle. The content assaults make both Ren and Kyoka collide in a stalemate. She's learning to adapt to our teamwork and counter-attacking. Ren gritted his teeth in frustration. The assault left both sides being contenders for dominance, but Ren was fiercely trying to push while Kyoka was smirking sadistically. Kyoka let a sneer escape before she backed off from the Red Ranger to avoid getting hit by multiple attacks coming from the other Rangers. Both stood several feet away, glaring at one another with ferocity. "So I take it that you are followers of Zeref," Ren growled at the demon lady with his teammates regrouping. On the ground, Kyoka just smirked darkly at them before saying, "Followers would be an understatement. No, we're more like his children." She adjusted her footing and shot her whip-like claws at the heroes. "We're all born of the sacred books, born of the books of Zeref," she stated proudly. The Rangers sidestepped and blocked the extending talons flying at them with the intent of killing. Kyoka attacked with another lash, but Midoriya, Kendo, and Oase parried with their weapons, also protecting Ren, Momo, and Takoyami, who countered with gunfire as Kyoka used her very long whip-like claws to block the incoming shots directed at her. Sparks flared as the claws, gunfire, and metal slid in opposite directions with no side letting up on their attacks. "It's only natural for us demons to have faith in their creator," Kyoka stated proudly while still attacking. "We have no problem putting our fate in others," Ren said while vertically slashing at the attack way. "But what you're doing is plain wrong," he stated before returning gunfire at the demon woman, who easily dodged it and a high round kick from Momo before she fired a few gunshots at her. But Kyoka was too quick on her feet to hit. "Everyone is willing to choose who or what to believe in," Takoyami said next as his gunfire was missing the Kyoka. "But we can't always justify our actions by acting out of accord for a reason," he said, summoning Dark Shadow to hit Kyoka at a fast speed. Kyoka jumped and adjusted her body in midair to flip over the Dark Shadow, and hopped off its back with her left foot at Kendo for an attack. "In other words, you're just Zeref's pawns," Kendo shouted as she stretched out her hand and grew it large to slap Kyoka away to the side. But Kyoka flipped back to land on the ground and skidded back a bit to stop in place. "How can you humans under our loyalty to Zeref?" Kyoka snapped before jabbing forward her claws, but her attack failed when Oase and Midoriya gave a much stronger slash back at her, this one making the demon slide back several feet. "It's not loyalty if it's against your own free will," Momo said as she just created a two-hand grenade and threw it at Kyoka. Before they could explode, Kyoka used her green whip to hit the grenades before they reached her, causing them to blow up in midair with a small smoke cloud from the aftermath. "And that is what makes us defiant from you demons," Oase stated as he immediately busted through the smoke cloud and got in front of her to double whirlwind, slashing his blades into Kyoka, who blocked the attack with both of her arms up in time, and felt the cuts before he jumped back from her counter blow. "Final wave," a voice said, making Kyoka look over to see Midoriya, who had instead a key in his legacy spear while the weapon was charging up power. Midoriya then got into a spearmanship skill stance as green electricity was around his body with one for all at 5%. He glared at the shocked Kyoka instantly. "Humans have their own beliefs and are devoted to others as well," Midoriya said as the fire in his eyes intensified with greater resolve. "But what is important is for you to not lose sight of who you are as an individual. To stand and fight and not run away." He glowed before launching himself at the demon like blazing arrow. "You're not the only one who sees one path," the Silver Ranger cried out with his spear pointing forward at his opponent. Kyoka just lets out an unamusing snarl before quickly jumping into the air. "Such foolish words from the mouth of primitive monkeys," the demon stated with a crazy look on her face while holding out both hands and extending all of her claw fingers at Midoriya on the ground. "Look out," Urza yelled out in great concern, as she and Altair thought he was going to get skewered from the attack. Just as Kyoka's attack was about to pierce into the ranger's body, Midoriya placed his right foot on the ground while quickly boosting his full cowling power up to 15%, then disappeared from everyone's sight in a blur of speed that left a small cloud of dust on the floor and also leaving behind a large footprint hole on the ground. as the demon's claw fingers pierce into the ground instead of the Silver Ranger, much to Kyoka, Urza, and Ultir's shock. Huh? Urza and Ultir both said, being taken back in surprise by the Ranger's speed. What? Kyoka shouted in great shock as she lost the smile on her face. Where did he? The demon woman didn't finish that sentence with Midoriya leaped off the room walls in a silver-green blur and reappeared behind Kyoka, with her head looking back at him with widened eyes as if she didn't see this coming. Midoriya was flying straight at Kyoka while greatly spinning his legacy spear in his right hand to increase the momentum and power of his next attack. Legacy/smash, Midoriya shouted while unleashing a silver energy slash with the combat power of one for all at the demon woman in point-blank range, as the Ranger created a strong shockwave effect that tore the floor apart. Gah! Kyoka violently cried out as the pressure on her back by the energy slash smashed her into the wall like a bullet in front of the other Rangers, who moved out of her way in time before a giant explosion went off, causing a good amount of destruction with her in it and made the whole area shake like an earthquake effect. Midoriya then landed back on the floor and disabled his quirk with his friends running up to him. Sweet attack there, Midoriya. Kendo complimented him while punching his left shoulder, dodging her attack at the last second to release your own ultimate move. Yes, it was a really excellent performance, Momo said with a nod and smile. Thanks, it was nothing really, Midoriya said in a slightly embarrassed tone. Nothing? Dude, you caused a freaking explosion. That wasn't nothing, the waist said to him in a proud tone. Agreed, a bit flashes for my taste, Tokoyami said with a smile. But it was still awesome, Dark Shadow stated while coming off his partner's body. Yeah, it really was. All Might would be real proud to see that attack of yours. Ren agreed too. Midoriya looked down with happiness as he couldn't help but agree with that statement. So do you think she's down from that? Kendo asked while looking at the direction Kyoka flew in. Maybe, but stay on guard, Rangers. You don't know how powerful your enemy really is yet. Holo Tommy warned his students as they ran into the giant hole that Midoriya created and sent the demon woman. Up above in the torture chamber, Ultir and Urza watched on in surprise and confusion at the ongoing battle with the dust clearing from Midoriya's last attack on Kyoka. They then watched the Rangers leave to where the demon was sent flying before following them from behind to see what would happen next, with Urza carrying Jello over her shoulder. What the hell? They're actually winning against a member of the strongest dark guild in the world. Ultir thought in awe and confusion at the Rangers' fight. Just what is this power that they use? Whatever it is, it's strong enough to go toe-to-toe with a demon from the Book of Zeref, she pondered while following the group of heroes from behind with Urza right next to her. They're so strong and cool. That last attack of Midoriya's was simply incredible, Urza thought with sparkles in her eyes while looking at the heroes as she followed them. I want to be just as strong as that one day. Just like the Power Rangers. She couldn't help but be amazed by the Rangers' battle skills and teamwork and hoped to be as strong as them in the future. After a minute of running, the Hero Force Ranger and Kyoka confrontation had led them to another location not too far away from the room they were just in, as the new location was an even bigger workers area that was right out of the tower with a smoking carter that they assumed the demon was in. As soon as they arrived outside, a rumbling sound was heard as a shadow sight appeared in the dust of the smoke, clearly a way to show Kyoka standing there with a ton of injuries on her body and a slightly irritated and happy expression on her face. Urza and Ultir arrived not too long ago to find a new hiding spot and witness Kyoka getting back up. Of course, it wasn't that easy, Ren said in annoyance as Kyoka was about to survive an attack like that and keep on going. You damn bastards. If I hadn't used my curse to enhance my body's defense, then that would have killed me, Kyoka said as she couldn't help but laugh at that amount of strength from that one attack. Not even Torfusar's defenses could withstand a blow like that. This is bad. She can still keep fighting after taking a few of my smashes and all the other damage we influenced to her, Midoriya thought in concern. Tell us, what is it you're trying to achieve here? Kendo demanded at the demon woman. You said you wish to recruit us into your guild. But what does that mean? I said it before, we need powerful soldiers to help us return to our beloved creator and complete his mission, Kyoka answered with a smirk. Once we take these slaves back to Tartaros, our plans to destroy this world and you lowly humans will continue to advance. The only distraction to avert is that meddlesome you Rangers. She lunged ahead at the heroes with her curse powers to enhance her power, but they jumped out of the way in time to avoid the assault. Don't expect the likes of you demons to think you'll ever have a prayer in the end, Tokoyami threatened while she and the others landed back a few feet. Oh, is that right? Kyoka said back in an amused tone. You may think you have the situation in your control, but you should know that me and my friends are going to stop you, Ren declared in a strong tone. Kyoka's eyes narrowed. Oh, I have my doubts about that. She let a small chuckle echo. Even if you somehow manage to defeat me, my comrade outside will finish what we've started. Comrade, Momo said in confusion before her eyes widened in pure shock from understanding what Kyoka meant, as the other rangers came to the same conclusion. You mean there's a second demon of Tartaros here on the island? Correct, little human girl, Kyoka said with a growing evil grin. I asked Sayla to keep a lookout for any human that attempts to leave the island and prevent them from escaping. She's also one of the 9 demon gates just like myself, and it would be quite the easy task for Sayla with her macro curse power, she stated in a confident manner, which surprised Urza and Ultir who were listening from afar. Oh no, everyone, please be alright. Urza thought with her good eyes widened in terror and worried about her friend's well-being with this other demon keeping them from leaving this place. There are 2 members of T Tartaros here. Ultir thought in horror, cursing her rotten luck. I never should have come to this stupid island. She was now regretting being here. Damn it. So there's a second demon on the island just as powerful as her. Holo Tommy thought in a worrisome situation. If this partner of hers is support to keep people from leaving the island, you don't think that. Oase was about to say it until someone on the team finished his thought as they've realized it too. Yui and Jiru might have run into her and are fighting that demon right now too, Kendo said in a grim but angry tone. Even so, there's nothing for us to worry about, Ren said, much to Kyoka's surprise. I have my faith in both of them. They'll keep the others safe from this Sayla. Besides, they were personally trained by the world's greatest hero himself. Ren smirked as he had faith in all of his teammates. Yeah, Midoriya said with a nod as he remembered their training with All Might. If they can survive against All Might training, then those 2 are tough enough to handle a single demon. What are you saying? Kyoka asked with a raised eyebrow. You are not the only one who has friends on this island, Kyoka. 2 of our teammates are protecting the slaves, Momo said, making the demon's eyes widen in surprise. So if they do end up crossing paths with your comrade, then she's finished, Takoyami stated with a grin. Hearing this made Urza sigh in relief, knowing that her friends and fellow slaves were safe in their hands, and almost forgetting about Jiru and Yui watching after them to escape. Ultir was shocked to know that there were more of these Power Rangers here on the island and didn't know if it was a good or bad thing given the situation. I see. Well, I guess not everything can go according to plan, Kyoka said with her eyes closed, giving a tiny grin. But this changes nothing. Before she opens her eyes with a full-grown evil smile following next. In the end, we demons will be the ones to prevail. If you actually believe the crap that's coming out of your mouth, then you're a damned fool to not know that you've picked the wrong team of heroes to mess with, Ren said as he and the Pirate Legacy Rangers then pressed the buttons on their own belt buckles to each summon a ranger keys and pulled out their morphers to flick them open, making their demonic opponent back off in confusion. Urza and Ultir were watching this from afar, with Urza's eyes sparkling with anticipation as she knew what was coming next, and Ultir just raised an eyebrow in confusion at what they were doing with those weird-looking keys. Legendary 6th Ranger Mode. They all shouted together while holding up their ranger keys before flicking them open, except for Midoriya, who then inserted the keys into their morphers. Quantum Power, Ren shouted while turning the key as the Time Force logo appeared in front of the ranger before consuming Ren to change him into the Quantum Ranger. Magical Source, Mystic Force, Oase shouted while turning the key as the Mystic Ranger logo appeared in front of the ranger before consuming Oase to change him into the Solaris Knight. Let's rock it, Kendo shouted while turning the key as the In Space logo appeared in front of the ranger before consuming Kendo to change her into the Silver Space Ranger. It's morphin' time, Takoyami shouted while turning the key as the Dragon Power Coin logo appeared in front of the ranger before consuming Takoyami to change him into the Mighty Morphin Green Ranger. White Ranger, Dino Power, Momo shouted while turning the key as the White Dino Thunder Ranger logo appeared in front of the ranger before consuming Momo to change her into the White Dino Ranger. Unleash the Power, Midoriya shouted while turning the key as the Dino Charge logo appeared in front of the ranger before consuming Midoriya to change him into the Dino Charge Graphite Ranger. New forms, but they don't look like they match with each other, Urza thought with both excitement and confusion, but nonetheless, she was still impressed by watching this. Wait, they've transformed again. What they're doing is similar to Requip magic, Ultir thought in surprise and was dumbfounded after seeing the Rangers transform again. The same reaction is also shown on Kyoka's face as she didn't expect that to happen, but soon got over her shock before charging at the humans, with the Rangers taking out their personal weapons, except for Midoriya and Oase who were going to fight bare-handed, then rushed at the demon. The rangers surrounded Kyoka as she was trying to fend them off, but to no luck as the 9 demon gates of Tartaros was struggling to keep up with the rangers' quarantined attacks. Kyoka then moved out of the way from the heroes surrounding her and turned to Ren, who was about to land an attack, but the demon deflected the sword strike and punched Ren 3 times, only for him to block the hits with his quantum defender before rolling back a few feet to his friends gathered together, all while he switches his weapon to blaster mode. Quantum Defender, Blaster Mode, Ren announced while pointing his weapon before firing super fast laser beams at the enemy. This caught Kyoka off guard as she was hit multiple times by laser fire while screaming in pain. "You damn humans can't defeat me," Kyoka said with smoke coming off her body before rushing at them. At the same time, Oase pulled out his laser lamp and rubbed the switch a few times to power up the lamp while Kendo switched her super silverizer to gun mode and quickly went in front of the group to blast Kyoka, successfully stopping her assault and hurting the demon in the process. "You'll have to do better than that," Kendo taunted with her weapon over her right shoulder. "Not that we would expect any better," Oase added in with his own taunt. "You," Kyoka growled in frustration. And then Takoyami and Momo charged in next. Takoyami went for a punch and Momo went for a kick, but the demon woman blocked their attacks by crossing her claws to stop them. "How impudent," Kyoka growled, flicking her claws off of any pain. Kyoka recovered and double backhanded the 2 rangers, only for Takoyami and Momo to dodge the assault by turning their bodies while also lowering themselves on the ground quickly in the opposite direction to simultaneously strike Kyoka in the chest with their weapons, which worked effectively before spinning their bodies again to switch the position they were standing to slash at the demon multiple times. Meanwhile, Ren, Kendo, and Oase went back to hit her from the air with a triple dropkick, which made Momo and Oase move out of the way just in time for the attack to land and send her tumbling back on the floor before stopping. "This can't be," Kyoka trailed off while struggling to push her injured body back up from the ground. "How can I be losing to these humans?" She finally got back on her feet to notice Midoriya jumping at her next. Midoriya does a front flip in the air, making him land next to Kyoka for a punch, as the demon woman raises an arm overhead to block the hit and she stretches her other claws out to lunge a counterattack on Midoriya. But Midoriya reacted quick enough to lend his body backward to dodge the claws, then leaned back and close to perform multiple super fast punches at Kyoka before finishing with one last right palm strike to her chest that created a graphite shockwave that knocked the wind out of his opponent, and pushing them back a few feet. "You're mistaken if you think you're going to beat us," Midoriya declared in a combat stance. "Don't take me lightly, human," Kyoka shouted while using her curse to enhance her strength and rushed back at him. Midoriya blocked the incoming punching and rolled back on the ground, before immediately standing back up to block 2 more strikes that almost hit him. Kyoka suddenly raised her claws for a high attack, as Midoriya blocked the attack by raising both of his arms up in time before pushing her away to punch her in the face, and Kyoka took a step back in pain. "You're the one who is taking us lightly," Midoriya said, blocking her extended talons with his arms before spiraling closer at Kyoka to punch her, before kicking the demon in the right abdomen, which made Kyoka grit her teeth from the pain. The ranger threw 2 punches before knee jabbing his opponent back a few meters, then spun to the right to elbow jab the demon in the stomach, making her fall back on the floor. But Kyoka immediately recovers and jumps back on her feet to hit Midoriya twice with her claws, which hurts the boy. But he ignores the pain to deflect even more attacks coming his way before jumping back to get some distance. "You're not escaping me," Kyoka declared while extending a long green whip at Midoriya, who was barely doing the strikes. "I'm not weak anymore," Midoriya said while avoiding the green whip assault at him, "because I'm all might successes." He then turns around to the right, while using the Graphite Ranger powers along with focusing one for all in his left arm at 10%. "Graphite Power, Royal Dino Punch Smash," Midoriya shouted while punching forward, as a chain attached to a giant iron ball, similar looking to the Paki Zord's tail, heads straight towards Kyoka with the enhanced power of one for all to make the attack more stronger than usual. Seeing this sent a chill down Kyoka's spine with her eyes widened, as instincts were telling her to avoid that attack at all costs. She then tried to dodge the attack by jumping away in the air, but wasn't fast enough, as one for all not only increased Midoriya's attack power but its speed as well, with the giant iron ball nailing Kyoka hard 3 times before crashing back into some heavy equipment for mining that creates a large dust cloud. Soon the Rangers regroup with each other as a quick flash of light changes them back to the Pirate Legacy Rangers. "They've done it," Urza cheered in celebration. "But was it enough to stop her?" Altair said, hoping this was over. The dust cloud was clearing to reveal Kyoka struggling to stand back up from the last attack, much to everyone's disappointment. She used her curse to enhance her body's defense to lessen the amount of damage she took from Midoriya's smash. Kyoka growled down at her prey, her patience wearing thin with the predicament. Grrr. She trailed off as she turned to the Rangers. Ready to give up now? Tokoyami asked. You can't beat our demon. Kyoka growled for a second time before calming herself down with a heavy sigh and her eyes closed. It seems that there's no other option left for me to expect this, she said before opening her eyes to give the heroes an evil expression on her face like she was plotting something. What's that supposed to mean? Momo asked as she and the others were getting ready for what Kyoka was planning next. The demon's grin grew even more psychotic and twisted before getting into some kind of stand. Everything we do at Tartaros is for our great creator. This is for the sake of Lord Zeref, she announced, letting out a mighty cry as the demon began to glow green, which blinded everyone watching and made the area shake violently. What is she doing? Tokoyami questioned while looking away and covering his face from the light. Is she going insane? Too bright. Dark Shadow shouted in his partner's body as he was getting weaker from this light. I don't know, but it doesn't look good, Kendo answered while also looking away. Everyone, get ready for whatever she might try, Ren said to his team. I don't like where this is going. Holo Tommy thought in great concern. Urza covered her good eye from the bright light the demon woman was releasing, and her nerves began to lengthen in astonishment. What is this? She yelled. Just what is that demon doing? Ultir yelled out in concern with her eyes closed. They didn't understand, and yet Kyoka didn't take notice as she was busy unleashing all of her remaining curse power to morph her entire body to give her a new appearance that would change the tide of battle in her favor. Soon all the shaking and bright light was dying down for the others to uncover their eyes before looking back at the demon. Congratulations, Power Rangers. You are the first ever humans in centuries to push me this far to unleash my true form. Kyoka said that the green light surrounding her body was fading for everyone to get a good look at what she had now become. Her new appearance was both shocked and gave shivers down the spines of all the humans in the room. Kyoka was now wearing a mask similar to her own with long structures on the side resembling horns. Her hair is replaced by a large tuft of feathers with a long ponytail that reaches down her body and ends in another tuft. She wears pauldrons made of feathers and revealing black armor that covers her arms and wraps around her torso, revealing most of her stomach and breasts. Her legs are covered by black boots that begin mid-thigh where they are lined with feathers. I am Kyoka, goddess of the slave planet, Kyoka announced to everyone with great pride in her voice. And now I embrace my true Etherius form, she said with a smirk. What? Momo gasped in horror. No way. Oace muttered in shock. She just changed. Kendo cried out. Damn it. Ren cursed out loud. Not good, Tokoyami said with a bitter feeling. Unbelievable, Midoriya said in awe. Her power, it's on the same level as Queen Benshira. Holo Tommy thought in horror at the amount of power Kyoka was releasing. What is GG going on? Urza thought in great horror as she was now feeling weak and helpless from just looking at the demon's true form. This is a demon's Etherius form, but I never thought I see it for myself. Ultir thought in both astonishment and horror as her body couldn't stop shaking in fear. Her master told her about how the demons of Tartaros can use their Etherius form to reveal their true power. This is really bad. If she is using her Etherius form, then she's done messing around. The Rangers don't stand a chance now. Etherius form. Midoriya couldn't help but ask her. What you're seeing is my true form. By releasing all of our curse energy, Weave of the 9 demon gates can display our true ability if we so choose it. Kyoka information them. So basically it's a major power up only for you demons. Ren catching on quickly, which means fighting her just got more complicated. He thought in concern. That's right, I made things much more difficult for you Rangers. Let's see if you can withstand my true Etherius form's power, Kyoka said with an evil smile. You have most certainly boasted some confidence, Tokoyami pointed out. Can you not see yourself at the opposite end of victory? No need, Kyoka stated while darkly glared at Tokoyami. Because I can see you fall. The demon suddenly jumped off, blitzing at lightning fast speed down towards Tokoyami and Kendo. As she passed the 2 Rangers, she slashed her mighty claws without a misstep. Gah! Tokoyami and Kendo both screamed in pain as the slash to Kendo's right side was smoking with steam. While Tokoyami suffered his own pain, he was slashed across his chest, with both of them fell back to the floor gagging. Time seemed to have slowed down from the Rangers' perspective, as they couldn't help but watch their 2 friends get assaulted by the demon's attack in a fraction of a second, with time resuming to see their teammates fall on the ground in pain. Kendo, Tokoyami, Ren was the first to react as he shouted his friends' names in great concern. "Oh no," Midoriya shouted with widened eyes. "Everyone," Urza cried out in fear. "That was fast. I barely saw her move." Altair thought in shock. "Is this a demon's true power? Are you two okay?" Momo asked them. "Yeah, we'll live," Kendo said, goading in pain. "Her power truly is frightening," Takoyami said as he wasn't looking so hot too. Kaya, divided by Aya, Oase and Ren both lunged after Kyoka with weapons in hand and ready to go another round against the demon. HMPH. Kyoka smirked as she brought her own arm around. "I'm out of your league now, humans. Back down," she said before slashing her arm, creating a vicious shockwave that burst in front of the two rangers. The red and blue rangers immediately sidestepped to their opponent's sides and dodged at the last second, before sliding back on their feet. "Holy crap," Oase yelled in shock after seeing the attack. "That's some serious firepower. And the shockwaves alone were about to do this much damage," Ren commented in his own surprise. "Is it me, or is she getting stronger?" Momo asked the others. Kyoka stood proudly over the sea of dust created, smirking maliciously at her prey while her body was glowing slightly green. "Yes, and with every second, my power will keep growing. And that means every second closer to your miserable end," Kyoka proudly said before Midoriya and Momo jumped at the demon with a slash from his spear and gunfire from her gun as they closed in. But Kyoka crouched and jumped backward, evading the silver and pink rangers' attacks before landing on the floor. "This is the true power behind my curse." Then she swings her arms again to create another powerful shockwave at the rangers, who dodge out of the way again. "If that's the truth, then she's been holding back this enough time," Kendo said as she and Takoyami recovered from their injuries while standing back up. "Even so, that doesn't change what we have to do," Ren said as he and the others charged in at her together. "Foolish rangers, now that I have unleashed my Etherius form, your chances of beating me are low," Kyoka said with a smirk before leaping up high in the air to avoid their attacks, before landing behind the team of heroes on a higher-up structure. "Everything I do is for my master End. I'll do anything to ensure our return to Lord Zeref and the revival of End." Kyoka's fingers twitched as she leered at the rangers. "Even if it means the deaths of the entire human race." She swung her right arm from the side, creating a crescent shockwave that bent towards the Pirate Legacy Rangers. The 6 rangers were caught in the incoming shockwave and slid backward in pain with a loud yell from all of them, before quickly recovering on their feet. "Such incredible power. She really was holding back this entire time," Urza said with widened eyes from the shock of the demon's power. "And I don't even think she hasn't shown what she can really do yet," Altair said with a nervous sweat breaking out from her side forehead. Kyoka made a whip with her elongated claws added to her curse power. She swiped it, but rangers jumped and dodged the attack while evading the groundbreaking impact in the process. "You would really comment on mass genocide for such a cause so blasphemous," Takoyami shouted at her in an angry voice. "It is our destiny." Kyoka pivoted and extended her claws to grab a pillar without effort and tossed it up toward Momo, Takoyami, and Kendo. Momo and Takoyami quickly shot at the incoming pillar to make it crack up in multiple areas before Kendo raised her 2 blades just as the pillar concealed them. Suddenly the pillar had white lines before it split apart into pieces. As the pieces fell to the ground, it revealed that Kendo cut them with her swords. But Kyoka, however, was undeterred. "Our maker created us for one reason: to be by his side as he ushers in a new age of despair," Kyoka stated to them before sending another shockwave at the humans as they've avoided it. "How frightened you must be to know that your existence is devoid of any purpose. We do not suffer like you humans. Our maker made his reasons very clear." Midoriya jumps up at the demon and slashes his spear down. "You're mistaken," he shouted, but Kyoka jumped away at the last second, evading the tip of the spear. Midoriya glared at her adversary, angrily staring into his eyes. "The only thing he sees you as his dispensable tools. How can you live with yourself knowing that you're nothing but his pawns?" "Be silent," Kyoka shouted as her voice boomed, her stretched claws creating a gust that made the rangers cover up. The intense wave of energy was so great that each of the rangers was being pushed back. "What?" Oase was stopped by green lightning that flared from Kyoka's body. The green lightning flared everywhere, intensifying in searing agony as it was like discharge. It was let loose and everything ran haphazardly all around. The green lightning suddenly flashed as Kyoka violently shouted in increasing volume, and then it discharged into bolts that struck everything. Midoriya screamed in agony as he was the first to get hit by the green lightning since he was the closest to the demon. Apparently, Midoriya wasn't the only one stung by the green lightning. Ren, Oase, Momo, Kendo, and Takoyami were all screaming out as green lightning struck them. Far away, Urza and Altair were struck by the green lightning too, even though they were at a safe distance from the fighting. The only one who wasn't hit by the attack was the unconscious Jello, which was luckily for him. To add insult to injury, the lightning attack forced all of the rangers to demorph out of their rangers' forms before the amount of damage they took. Midoriya was gritting his teeth as his senses were on edge. Everything he was feeling was starting to hurt. Even his own sense of breathing was hard to make sense of. The green-haired boy's eyes were wide, intense pain shooting through them. "What is this, my body?" Midoriya said as the more he struggled, the more the green static around his stung, and this was not from One for All. "My body won't move," he stated in pain before dropping to his knees. "Distressing, is it not? So much so that you changed back," Kyoka said casually, strolling slowly a few more feet forward. "I have used my abilities to strip you of defenses of your pain. Even with the slightest breeze, you'll feel severe agony." She looked off to the peanut gallery, smirking as she saw their wretched states. "However, I think I went a little overboard as ever. Your comrades feel agony as well." Ren was clutching his stomach, shuddering in pain. "Just ignore the pain, have to keep fighting," he said as his body refused to his to him. "It's like I'm being stabbed all over." A waist whimpered on his back. "I can't feel anything." Tokoyami grunted out with his teeth gritting from the pain. "This pain is unbearable." Dark Shadow could feel the pain from whatever the demon did to them. "It hurts everywhere," Momo cried while lying on her side, as it was worse than any stomachache she'd ever had. "Why yeah, but Midoriya's got the worst of it." Kendo labored with one eye closed from the pain while looking at her crush. Midoriya was sweating profusely as he couldn't move. The raspy breathing he was giving was hurting his own throat. As he exhaled, the more his insides were beginning to compress. It was like his body was tearing apart from the inside out and vice versa. It was hard enough for him to move, let alone move, as Kyoka took full advantage and blew a small huff. A breeze to touch Midoriya's skin, and the ranger arched back, screaming violently and loudly, and green lightning stabbed at his nerves. The pain he felt was beyond any measure, and it was like being sliced apart or bit into. This pain was even worse than the times Bakugou would use his explosion quirk on him. Tears pulsated from the corners of his eyes in response, and the sound of Midoriya's anguish shivered everyone. "Damn it," Altair gritted her teeth, unable to even twitch as she and Urza were hard of breathing. "This pain, it's even worse than what the cultists did to me." Urza whimpered in agony in her stomach. "This is bad. They're all too hurt to keep going." Holotommy panicked as he was unable to help his students in their hour of need. "Midoriya, you have to fight it. Don't let her win." Ren was shouting at his friend. Midoriya was stiff as a statue before his convulsed body fell over. Thudding on his back, the young ranger was advanced by Kyoka. The demon woman walked over nonchalantly with a swing in her hips and smirked down at the distressed boy. She raised a foot and stomped on his stomach. The sensation of pain was so great that even with Midoriya's gaping mouth, no screams of pain came out. "You fucking bitch," Oase yelled out in rage. "Leave him alone, you fiend." Tokoyami shouted out while watching this on the ground. "This does bring me back to all the times I tortured humans," Kyoka taunted. Her victim could only shudder and gag as the air was of no supply. Inhaling only served to sting and hurt his throat. Kyoka raised a claw before making a fist and drove it down to Midoriya's chest, making the boy scream out in pain again. "That's right. This is how weak your kind really is." Kyoka swiped at the boy's body with her fist, inflicting more pain on him, as her curse's effect multiplied the pain that Midoriya took. "You are flawless creatures that must be eliminated." She continues to deliver more punishment to him. "Leave him alone," Kendo cried out, tears running down her face. "Stop it," Momo pleaded with her, but to no avail. Midoriya, Ren, Holotommy, and Urza both shouted out in worry as they couldn't help but watch this madness. While Kyoka was beating Midoriya, the rangers were screaming in pure anguish, and were trying to find a way to turn this around in his favor. "It hurts. It's hurting everywhere. My body can't move on its own. I feel like my body is being pierced by 1,000 nails. I can't focus because of the pain," Midoriya thought while feeling all the pain Kyoka was giving him. No, not like this. I gotta lose, damn it. I'm still too weak. I'm still so weak that I can't beat someone like him. She's just too strong for me to beat. And now she's playing with me like I was her toy," he thought, feeling that all of his hard work to get stronger was a waste. At this very moment, Midoriya felt like his old self before meeting Ren and Holotommy. He felt like he was Deku again, the weak, good-for-nothing, powerful, quirkless boy who was everyone's punching bag. The other rangers couldn't help but watch in agony as the demon beat their friend Merciful. The sensation of lust in a sadistic way, the treachery and satisfaction of dominance displayed, was sickening. They couldn't believe this was what she was at a point, and it angered them. By the time Kyoka was done punching Midoriya, he was nothing more than a shriveled body. Midoriya's bangs covered his eyes. His whole body was seen with scratches and bruises, and his school uniform was torn and damaged. By all means, the boy looked dead as he wasn't responsive, yet the sight wasn't enough for Kyoka to take. She wanted more. She wanted to make the ranger submit. She wanted to show the humans that demons were superior. One way or another, Kyoka will show her own possession of Midoriya, even by means of killing. Before leaving this island, you shall give me my final appeasement. I will give you true despair, and I will savor every bite of it. Kyoka sadistically leaned down, looking at her with wide, lust-filled eyes. Away with your sense of sight. With a snap of her fingers, Midoriya's vision began to fade away. His eyes grew hollow in color, and slowly, the vision of a cackling Kyoka faded, until at last there was nothing but absolute darkness. Touch, taste, smell, hearing, Kyoka said in a sadistic, taunting tone. All of your sense will be gone, and then you will die in the darkness alone, with no one by your side. Midoriya began to lose any and all senses. The ground and rock beneath his was no longer felt, like instead he was floating. The taste of blood and saliva gurgling in his mouth was gone. The smell of fried body and rot was deprived of his nostrils. Lastly, the sound of Kyoka and her maniacal laughter was gone, fading away. And just like that, everything that Midoriya had was deprived. Everything, it's all gone, Midoriya thought as he floated in a dark space, devoid of anything, like his own void within his subconscious. Nothing but his own thoughts to be his company till the ending days. There was but eternal darkness and a void to expand further in the ranger's own pity. Midoriya's fate was sealed by the deprivation of what he needed to live. So is this how my journey as a hero ends? Am I to die like this, alone? The deprived rangers began to meekly muse on the irony of his situation. All of my efforts, are they in vain? Have I done nothing more than just be a handicap to everyone this whole time? Do I really deserve to be alone after all? The bittersweet days of his time being quirkless began to edge into him once again. Mom, All Might, Tommy, Ren, Yui, Jiru, Momo, Oase, Kendo, Takoyami, Kagura, Urza, everyone. I'm sorry that I failed you all. Midoriya thought as he was falling into complete despair. Then suddenly out of nowhere, multiple shining lights appear in the dark space that lights up the darkness around Midoriya, flashing various colors that flood his vision. But despite the bright color show, he doesn't flinch or gets blinded. Instead, the rays of light flow into him as if giving the ranger newfound energy and the confidence he needs. In the bright lights, Midoriya saw 8 different lights shining there before 8 shadowy figures stood together, all staring at him, and one of them was a man who looked to All Might. What is that? Midoriya thought, looking at the shadowy figures in awe. And all too soon, those bright lights before come flooding back, hindering his vision. But he feels something almost supernatural as One for All activates all on its own accord in his right hand. Midoriya's hand glows brightly with a powerful aura. He can feel it happening, but he is not the one willing it to do so. What is this feeling? Midoriya thought as he could feel something he never felt before coming out. As something strange was happening to Midoriya, Kyoka towered over him, mockingly cackling at the fall of the ranger. This is despair. This is my victory to behold. You pathetic humans have nothing to gain but the agony on your end. Kyoka mockingly laughed, the cynical tone making everyone else bitterly frustrated as they couldn't move their bodies to stop the demon. She slammed a hand against Midoriya's face, pressing hard to give her the sensation of being crushed. I won't kill all of you, but this shall be but the beginning. I'll make you humans experience true hell. You'll make for an excellent puppet for me. Slowly and dreadfully, your body and soul will rot away until you're nothing but a shriveled pile of despair. Kyoka's malicious laughter escalated, her joy rising at the lust-filled prospects. I'm so looking forward to it. To think you're thrilled is nothing compared to feeling it. Just try and say how grateful you are for such a fate bestowed onto you. She continues to laugh maliciously over her victory. Kyoka, unaware of the phenomena happening to the ranger, continues to laugh as a black mist slowly starts to seep from Midoriya's right arm. Huh? Kyoka looked down, ceasing her laughter as she started to notice what was happening to Midoriya's arm. Before she could do anything, a series of black tendrils emerged out of Midoriya's arm, which shocked the demon as she was immediately hit by a mass of black tendrils that stretched out and sent her flying into the air before smashing into a stone wall that broke apart, as the other rangers, Tommy, along with Urza and Ultir, could only watch in shock as massive tendrils of energy exploded violently from Midoriya. Midoriya, what the hell is going? Ren didn't finish his sentence with the black tendrils nearly hit him and the others, as a shockwave that shook the entire cavern and threw the rangers back into the air. Og! The 5 rangers screamed before landing far away from Midoriya and the black tendrils. Soon, the black tendrils grew larger and started to cause destruction all around the area, destroying whatever came in its way. What the heck is this? Urza screamed with shock and worry while flying back into a wall. This is not good. Altair thought as she was sending back from the shockwave of the black tendrils' destruction. What is this? This isn't any ranger power that I know of. Tommy thought in shock as he was watching the destruction that his student was causing. Midoriya himself had no idea what was happening and what this power was. He only felt a terrible pain in his arm that from it emerged these tendrils as he was being dragged around wildly into the air like a ragdoll by this unknown power. He tried to control it, but he couldn't. It was as if these things were the ones controlling him. Ren grunted as he found the strength to pull himself up to witness the ungodly destruction being caused by this unknown power Midoriya was using. He and others put their heads down out of the way of stray black tendrils, which cleaved the ground it had struck apart. Midoriya! Kendo screamed in terror. Even from this far away she could still recognize him, his green hair. The black tendrils were stretching out of his arm, tearing through his clothes, chaotically grabbing whatever they could. Everything was being destroyed, supports were crushed. What the hell is happening to Midoriya? The waist said while watching all of this. I don't know, but this isn't one for all. Ren said out loud for the others to hear. If it not one for all, then could he have finally awakened to his own quirk? Takoyami asks in concern. That's impossible. No one can awaken to a quirk at this age. Momo said, correcting him. Whatever is going on, we need to stop him before this gets even more out of hand. Kendo said to them. Meanwhile, Kyoka rose back up from the ground, after shaking her head from the unexpected attack from the green-haired human. Then he looked up to see the mass destruction he was causing by those black tendrils coming out of his arm. What is this? Kyoka was flabbergasted at this, before moving out of a black tendrils that almost got her. I have no idea what this is. She landed on the ground before lowering herself in a jump position and leaping to Midoriya at high speed while avoiding the tendrils. But it wouldn't be enough to stop me, Kyoka said, getting in front of Midoriya before kicking him hard in the stomach, making him gag out of spite. The impact of the blow sends Midoriya flying down far away straight through a cave wall, near Urza and Altair's hiding stop, that's leading to the black tendrils returning from where they emerged, making Midoriya fall into unconsciousness and stopping the out-of-control power from doing more damage. Midoriya! Everyone except for Kyoka and Altair yelled out in both worry and fear. Midoriya! Urza said, crawling over to where Midoriya was to see if he was okay. Midoriya, please wake up. Midoriya! She yelled, trying to get a response while shaking him, to no luck. Kyoka lands back on the ground before looking in the direction she sent her prey with a sadistic smirk across her face. I admit that took me by surprise. I didn't know that green-haired human had such a powerful attack like that, Kyoka said as she was a little interested in the black tendrils of Midoriya. But in the end, it was still no match for a demon of Tartaros. Humans really are pathetic beings. Ha 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 ha, she said before starting to laugh like a mad woman who had claimed victory. Ren, who was hearing this, balled up his fist in rage at the mocking that he and his friends were getting from Kyoka, as she and her kind saw them as if they were just insects. Like their very existence was some sort of crime and these demons have the right to take. Well, fuck that noise. He refused to go down like this without a fucking fight. He trained for over a year to get to this point and show everyone that he wasn't a weak, quirkless outcast who didn't deserve to exist. He was a Power Ranger, and Power Rangers never give up. Ren used his remaining strength to push his body as he managed to get on one knee and try to slowly push his back up while struggling in the process. Then he immediately stumbles back to the floor before catching himself from falling to the ground as resumes his attempt to stand back up again. The Hero Force leader frustratingly gritted his teeth with his whole body aching in pain before letting out a mighty cry that got Kyoka, Urza, Altair, and his friends' attention onto him. Huh? Kyoka acutely looked bewildered by what she was seeing the human doing. What is he doing? Ha! Ren screamed out at the top of his lungs while pushing himself back up with all his might, which worked as he was now back on his feet, which surprised everyone there. Whoa, Kendo said in awe. Now that's plus ultra, Takoyami said with a grin at his friend's unbreakable will. Damn, Ren, you really are something else, Away said while being impressed. Such a strong will, Momo said looking at her crush in amazement. It's like he's invincible, Urza said in complete awe and respect for the ranger. Impossible. How can he still move? Altair muttered with a god-struck expression. That's right, kid. Done, stay down. Keep on fighting. Tommy was menially cheering him on. This can't be, Kyoka said with a slightly surprised look before glaring daggers at him. How can you still be standing from my curse's effect on your body? She demanded to know. That's the thing about us Power Rangers, Kyoka. Ren spoke while breathing heavily before giving a cocky smirk to the demon woman, which only pissed her off to his amusement. We're too damn stubborn to stay down, especially if the lives of the innocent are on the line. No matter how many times you make us fall, we'll raise back up even stronger than before. he said to the demon in a confident but serious tone. Kyoka only clicked her tongue in annoyance at the human's remark. Well, it doesn't matter either way, because nothing has changed. You're mine now, little human, she proclaims as the ranger prepares for a fight. Evil freaks like you don't stand a chance against us, Ren said while pulling out his legacy saber in his right hand. Still playing VERYYYY. Kyoka chuckles sinisterly back at the eager teen. I can't wait to see you break under my thumb. Ren then charges forward with a battle cry and prepares his saber for a powerful strike. As he lands the blow, Kyoka puts up one of his claws and blocks the powerful attack. With her other claw, she knocks Ren away only for him to block the attack at the last, as he backflips a few feet away from the demon. Give up, little boy, Kyoka announces with an evil grin. You don't stand a chance. I'll never give up, Ren shouts back as Kyoka prepares her next move. The demon sends green energy slashes at Ren, who acrobatically dodged even slash with flips and agility before deflecting away the remaining attack coming his way. He then used his Operation Overdrive Speed genetic powers to quickly close the distance between them, as Ren rushed at Kyoka in a yellow blur, but unfortunately thanks to Kyoka's Etherius form, she was able to react quickly enough to block Ren's sword strike by holding up left claw. Nice move, human, Kyoka gloats with a grin while holding her opponent in a stalemate. Too bad I'm strong enough to pick up on your speed, she said as Ren held pressure on his sword. Well, you can't blame me for trying, Ren said while pushing hard to overpower the demon with his weapon. But I still have plenty of tricks up my sleeves, he stated before using his gorilla DNA to increase his strength to push Kyoka, making her eyes widen from Ren's unexpected newfound strength as she took a couple of steps back against her will. Time to send you back to the deepest part of the netherworld you came from. Hey, some of my best friends were born from the netherworld, Kyoka said before laughing a little and moving her claw away from Ren's sword to stop him from pushing her back even more. We demons have a longer lifespan than you humans, and we'll be here long after you're gone. Kyoka smacks Ren around the area with her backhand, as he uses his legacy saber to keep him in line, but the Etherius vastly overpowers him. Kyoka forces Ren to his knees, sword in hand, as his back is against a pile of rubble. Ren tries to keep from taking damage, but Kyoka lands the weapon on his left shoulder, which makes him wince in pain from the pressure being applied. Just accept defeat, Rangers, Kyoka said as she was taking great pleasure in making him suffer. Your species has always been pathetic creatures. You never stand a chance against us demons, she said menacingly as the Etherius became overconfident. Think again, bitch, Ren said, taking advantage of his position to pull out his legacy gun in his right hand, before firing 3 shots at the demon's stomach in point-blank range, which made Kyoka stumble back with sparks flying off her body. TCH, luckily shot, Kyoka grumbled in slight pain while holding her stomach where she got shot. We'll never give up, Ren said, struggling to get back on his feet. No matter how hard you strike, we'll strike back even harder, he stated before charging at her. Ren ducks under an attack by rolling forward on the ground, as he quickly stands back up to make his way back at the demon before swinging his sword at her. Kyoka turned to face him, and Ren managed to land a few good blows against her, but she quickly took back the advantage by knocking him to the ground. Ren immediately got back up to charge at her again, but Kyoka blocked the sword before kicking him back on the floor, making him roll back on his stomach. Fight all you want, you'll still lose, Kyoka said as she watched the human get back up for another useless assault on her. The future belongs to the demons. The demon slashes Ren with her powerful claws and sends him flying back into multiple objects around the area before he rolls down on the floor in pain. Ren, his teammates yelled out in concern as they watched Kyoka walking over to their downed leader. Ren soon got on his knees despite the pain he was in as Kyoka stopped a few feet away from him. You don't understand humans, Ren states while looking at her with a glare. We'll always come back fighting, especially when the odds are against us. When we are at our most vulnerable, our true strength comes out. He gets back to his feet, readying his weapon. We'll always get back up. That's why evil doesn't stand a chance against us, he stated out loud for everyone to hear. Awase, Momo, Kendo, Takoyami, and Holotami just smiled proudly at Ren's hero nature and willingness to never quit. Urza and Altair, who was with Midoriya, heard this and were speechless by Ren's unbreakable resolution and couldn't help but be amazed by how cool he is right now. This time you'll stay down for good, Kyoka shouts as she charges towards Ren in a burst of speed with her claws out. Everything started to slow down around the Hero Force Ranger leader, as his heightened senses kicked in with Ren seeing Kyoka coming at him normally, but at a fast pace, while making everyone witness this, seeing the demon woman moving in a blur at the quirkless boy. Ren waited at the last possible moment before leaping up into the air with a front backflip, narrowly avoiding Kyoka's attack. which shocked the demon lady. As Ren descends back to the ground, he pulls out his red pirate legacy ranger key and flicks it open to insert it into the cylinder keyhole on his weapon. Final wave. A voice from Ren's legacy saber said as the blade glowed bright red to power up the weapon. What? Kyoka yelled out while turning back at the human. This is where all my training will pay off, Ren thought as the moment his left foot touched the ground. He twisted his body back at the Etherius. Legacy slash, he shouted while cross-slashing a critical blow against Kyoka that sent sparks flying off her body. The demon was knocked back while screaming in pain with a stunned expression on her face. She wasn't the only one, as the others watching this were beyond amazed by the move Ren just pulled off despite the situation. Yes, Momo cheered happily. He got her, Away said with a mad grin. Only he could have done something like that, Kendo said with a smile. As expected from our leader, Takoyami said with a nod. That move he pulled off was pretty sweet. Dark Shadow said in an impressed tone. No matter what you try, Kyoka, you will never keep him down. Holo Tommy thought as he was proud of his student. Ren is such an amazing fighter, Urza thought while looking at him with a sparkling eye. Okay, I got to admit that was pretty impressive, Altair thought as she was taken by surprise at the Rangers' counterattack. The demon staggered before looking at Ren and laughing a little. Not bad human, but this is far from over. You may have landed in a good hit, but it was not enough to beat me. Kyoka retorts back with an evil grin. I know, Ren said breathing heavily while staying to keep his balance. But you can't keep a good ranger down, he stated before running at his opponent. Back outside of the tower, Jiru was in genuine agony right now while still fighting off against her friend. Yui was pushing her limits as she was trying her best to avoid her fellow ranger's attack. Unfortunately, Yui wasn't faring any better as the quiet ranger was fighting with everything she had to get her body back under control with no luck of success. Sayla was watching all from the sideline with an unreadable expression like this wasn't worth her time. They've been fighting like this for the past 10 minutes now as Jiru tried her best to avoid Yui's strikes by getting a few good hits on the punk rock girl. But they'll be damned if they continue to play this demoness games for much longer. Suddenly, Yui uncontrolled mid-swing her blade at her friend, as Jiru jumped back out of the way and out of reach before landing back a few feet. Jiru looked at her friend while breathing heavily like she was out of breath, and Yui was trying to break free from whatever Sayla did to her when the ranger's body began to move without her control once more. Yui moved towards Jiru in a bolt of speed, before jumping into the air and raising her sword, aimed at his friend. Jiru, watch out, Yui warned while falling towards her. Jiru barely managed to dodge his sword by handspring backward, a few inches from hitting her directly. Retreating back a few paces, Jiru took a defensive pose towards Yui. Alright, Sayla, quit controlling Yui's body, Jiru yelled at the demon in frustration. Sayla's response was to have Yui attack her again. This time she was fighting with full force. It was actually a good thing for once that Jiru had gone reflects in this form. Otherwise she might have been in bigger trouble. This is growing quite dull, Sayla spoke in a bored tone, crossing her arms. This is getting us nowhere. We have to get you freed, so we beat this chick together, Jiru said, shifting her body to the right to dodge an attack. But how? I've been trying all this time to get free from whatever she did to me, Yui said, continuing to attack Jiru without her consent. Jiru then blocked the blade with her left forearm before grabbing onto Yui's right arm to pull her in. She quickly grabbed her left arm to hold the girl in place once more, all while Yui was struggling to break free. I got an idea, but I'm going to need you to trust me for this, Jiru said as she had a plan. As long as it gets my body back under my control, then I'm fine with whatever, Yui said, giving a nod. Okay, here goes nothing, but this is gotta hurt, Jiru shouted before quickly letting go of Yui's left arm and elbow jabbing her in the stomach to make the girl bend over. While she was stunned for the moment, Jiru grabbed a hold of Yui's left arm with both hands, then she twisted the arm and moved her body as Jiru hails Yui over her shoulder and threw her a good few feet away into a shipping container that pierces a hole in its side. Okay, now's my chance, Jiru declared before running at Sayla. Not half bad, human, Sayla admitted, watching Jiru coming at her. The demon lady calmly looked unruffled. She fixed him with a measured look. You're mine now, bitch. Jiru raised her right arm up while getting closer to her opponent. But Sayla calmly said as Jiru's fist came into contact with her face before stopping the punch a few inches from hitting. What? Jiru cried out in pure shock with her body struck with some unknown force and freezing her in place. You never had a chance at beating me from the beginning, Sayla said in confidence, as Jiru moved her fist slowly away from Sayla's face against her will. Shit, my body is moving on its own, Jiru thought while her body was moving without her consent. Jiru's body was struggling to listen to her brain, and she could only watch as her limbs went numb and focused on the girl taking a few steps back from the demon with her arms down to the side. Struggle all you want, it won't do you any good, Sayla spoke in a cold tone, as Yui finally made her way back to them and stood next to Jiru's side against her own will too. Jiru again felt her teeth grind against one another with her immovable body. Damn you, she murmured while fighting against the demon's curse. You haven't beaten us yet, Yui said with the same manner as Jiru while struggling under the effects of the curse. On your knees, Sayla ordered coldly. Just like before, Jiru and Yui did as Sayla commanded, and the both of them fell on the ground to their knees and hands in front of Sayla, feeling powerless to do anything about it. To their dismay, the rangers' bodies actually obeyed her command. It seized up, every muscle turning stiff as a lead. You're mine now, Rangers, Sayla proclaims as she gazes down at the two humans like they are trash in her eyes. Think again, demon. You really don't understand a thing about us humans, Jiru retorts back while still trying to fight off the effect of the curse. Which is why you won't win this battle. I don't want to understand you, because I already knew plenty about your pitiful kind, Sayla said back in a cold manner. I read the stories of thousands of humans already and they always pretty much end the same. Then you should already know that we won't quit, Yui said back to her intently. Give up Power Rangers and join Tartaros, Sayla announces. You didn't stand a chance. She was watching the two humans still trying to fight back against her curse. We'll never give up, Jiru and Yui shout back, making Sayla sigh in disappointment with her eyes closed at the humans' stubbornness. You humans can be a real annoyance that it gives me a headache. Sayla shook her head in disappointment. How about I make things more interesting and show you both the tale of a true demon, she said, making the two rangers look at her in confusion. What are you on about? Jiru asked with a glare. Since you're so desperately trying to save those human slaves, how about I have two heroes kill these lowly humans? Sayla said with a tiny dark smile as both girls gash in surprise at the suggestion. You wouldn't, Yui said in a horrific tone. You can't make us, Jiru shouted back in rage. You don't think. How about we test the theory? Sayla said with a growing smirk. Go and kill the other slaves, slowly. There was no hesitation in her tone. That comment was all it took and for Jiru and Yui to lose it. Then the two rangers stood back up and began to turn around in the opposite direction to where the slaves were, to kill them against their will as they started to walk forward. They immediately started to struggle. Both girls grunted and hissed behind their closed teeth, struggling to make themselves move again. The futility of the effort only made the two girls boil and angrier. The feeling gave them strength and power as their bodies started to slowly glow in their respective colors, giving off a little aura. We can't let her win, no matter the cause, both girls thought together in sync, as the aura surrounding their bodies started to glow bright and stronger. Sayla looked at the two heroes in confusion as she didn't know why their bodies were glowing like that. Both female rangers stopped themselves and let out a powerful scream as they released a massive wave of aura. Jiru's wolf spirit and Yui's triceratops appeared from their bodies to unleash a mighty roar that broke the curse's effect on their bodies. Impossible, Sayla cried out with a surprised expression on her, not only from seeing the two spirits but also from breaking her macro control. Soon both dinosaur and animal spirits disappeared as the two heroes were breathing heavily to themselves, successfully breaking the demon's control over them. Hey, I got control over my body again, Jiru announced in a pleasant tone. Me too, Yui agreed, moving her body of her own free will before looking at her hand. I don't get it. Her power was working on us a minute ago, but not anymore. Why is that? Yui asked in confusion. Jiru thought about it for a moment before it hit her. It might have something to do with our spirits, she said to Yui. Our spirits, Yui said, raising a brow until she understood what she meant. You're saying that my triceratops and your animal spirit are what broke her control over us? Yeah, I think our ranger's powers are what helped us here, Jiru said in confidence. No way, this is absurd. Sayla tried using her curse on them again, only for the girls to break the curse yet again. She looked at them with wide eyes, shocked at how her power was useless to them. What? No, that's not possible. She glared directly at the rangers. How come my curse is working anymore? She shouted at them. In response to the question, Jiru and Yui turned to the demon with an intense gaze in their eyes. You're going to pay for that, you damn dirty demon, Jiru said, holding up her morpher as her left arm ignited dark purple energy. Wolf morpher, wolf beam. She thrust her left arm forward at Sayla to release an energy beam. Energize. Dino morpher blast, Yui said, holding up the morpher to her side, before spinning the barrel with her left hand and then pointing it at the Sayla, as she fired a pink laser blast. Regaining her composure, Sayla raised her right hand to summon a bunch of books that surrounded her and used them to create a barrier of books in front of herself before the two blasts hit the demonic woman. but the blasts easily burned the books away, as the force of the explosion pushed Sayla slightly back as she skidded on her feet to stop in place, before noticing the pink ranger running straight at her. Sayla's eyelids fell a little before speaking. How foolish. My macro curse is without question. She swiped her left arm to the side. Now, turn against your ally and destroy her. She used even more of her curse's power to control the ranger. Yui's glare didn't deter them as she continued her charge. Sorry, but you're not going to control us ever again, she stated before jumping up at her. Power kick, Yui shouted while stretching out her right leg as it glowed pink with energy. Sayla's eyes widened in shock before she took up her arms and crossed her chest to block the kick as it made contact with her. Sayla grunted as she felt the power behind the kick, but instead of being blown away as Yui thought, Sayla stepped back and stood her ground while pushed back with her feet skidding on the ground. Yui swung her other leg at Sayla again, as the demon dodged by gracefully jumping back. Lightly dancing backward, she gestured quickly, pelting her with a flurry of books. Yui narrowly avoided the books by backing away, only to remain dismayed when one hit her, and was now rolling on the floor. Sayla dashed toward the pink ranger and raised a fist to strike at her, only for Jiru to come in from the left to high kick at the demon. No, you don't, Jiru said while igniting her right leg with dark purple energy and kicking at the demon lady. And by the way, that comment about our foolish emotions is also the source of our strength. Sayla used her raised arm to block the attack but didn't expect the ranger to create a shockwave as the momentum of the blow lifted her from the air, with another swift kick followed in the left rib, sending Sayla reeling back on the floor. The demon of Tartaros immediately got back up, while holding her left side in pain with Yui, who shortly recovered. Time to try my armor mode, Yui said holding up her Dino Charge Morpher. The pink ranger then pressed a button on the left side of her belt for the case on her buckle to turn over, before she opened the case to reveal 2 Dino Chargers inside and then grabbed one of them after closing it. Dino Charger, ready, Yui shouted while holding up the Tricera Charger forward before clicking a button on it, activating it. Then Yui pops the barrel of the Morpher's mouth before inserting the Dino Charger into the muzzle of the Dino Charge Morpher. Once that was done, she pressed down the mouth on her Morpher. Tricera Charger engaged. A voice announced from the Dino Charge Morpher. Dino Steel, armor on, Yui said while holding the Dino Charge Morpher in her left, before sliding the barrel of the Morpher down on her right arm with its sparking pink energy. Then a piece of armor manifested on the ranger's right arm, as a drill appeared in her right hand. Before Sayla could do anything to stop Yui, Jiru came in front of her for a punch to the face that the demon easily pushed the fist away, before avoiding a back kick to her right leg by leaning back a bit. Sayla immediately threw a few punches at the Wolf Ranger, only for Jiru to quickly block them and then shift one of the demon's arms away to quickly palm strike her in the shoulder, which made Sayla step back a bit as felt the pain from Jiru's attack, as the ranger follows up with a back kicks to the demon's face with Sayla holding up her left arm to stop the attack. I order you to stand still, Sayla gives another command with her curse, while still blocking the kick. Go the hell, Jiru shouted before quickly spinning her body to the right while lowering herself to the floor to do a low sweep with her left leg. Sayla saw this coming and leaped up in the air to avoid the attack, only to not notice Yui running to her as the pink ranger extended her right arm forward with the drill pointing at her. Tricera drill, Yui shouted while jumping straight up to the demon woman with the Tricera drill generating pink spiral energy for a downward attack, making Sayla's eyes widen in shock yet again. Completely distraught, Sayla was left open with a gaping mouth and was enveloped in the attack. The demon screamed as she shot back down on the ground in a harsh slide, her front side steaming from Yui's assault. Don't forget about me, Jiru added and went running up after Sayla as she finished sliding back and recovered from the attack, with Yui landing back on the ground and running up to her opponent again. When the demon opened her eyes, she was met with Jiru jumping in front and igniting her right leg in dark purple energy to perform a flying whirlwind kick. The girl's kick swung into the gut of the demon, making Sayla gag as she slid back again, this time her back slamming against a nearby shipping container that left a dent in it. The shock ran through her back, making her shriek out in pain. Miliana and Sho were wide-eyed. Well, they both said together. Yeah, you can say that again, Simon mumbled. Sayla stood on one knee before and summoned numerous books around herself, swiping her arm and sending them flying after them. The books close in, but Jiru leaps back from the incoming projectiles as Yui runs up from behind her teammate, passing her to the hellstorm of books. Yui swung her Tricera drill around in a circular monument while swatting away every hard-covered book in front of her. She remained steadfast as the pink ranger's drill stopped spinning before pointing a blaster at the demon and started firing at Sayla, which hit her a few times until she summoned more books to shield herself. When Sayla switched to defense, Yui ducked out of the way as Jiru blitzed past her, reappearing in front of the wall of books and dealing a powerful double elbow jab that destroyed the books, creating a power shockwave. Sayla felt the relentless force of the shockwave and shot back, barely catching herself while sliding back. Jiru and Yui both rushed at her together, with Sayla recovering from the last attack and glared hatefully at the team of heroes. "Alright," Wally cheered with a fist pumped. "Nice teamwork." Rob nodded with a smile. Yui lunged after Sayla with a battle cry and then used her quirk to enlarge her Tricera drill 3 times its size, hurriedly thrusting the weapon at the demon, who tried to dodge the attack but failed to do so as the drill pierced her skin through the stomach. "Tricera drill," Yui shouted while actively the drill, making it rapidly spin around along with Sayla. Sayla's grunts of anguish were met with Yui using her momentum and swinging her Tricera drill around while the demon was being spun by the drill, dragging Sayla around until the pink Dino Charge Ranger finally flung the demon off her weapon and sending Sayla into the air. As Sayla sailed up, she was met with Jiru shooting down like a missile, driving a knee into the demon's abdomen. The impact was of intensity to where a ripple was exerted outwards upon impact. The sounds of bones breaking were drowned out by the sounds of Sayla screaming as she shot down. As Sayla fell, she opened an eye within her damaged condition and summoned a pile of books beneath herself to break her fall. She crashed into them with a number of books flying all over the place. "Looks to me that we got her on the defensive," Jiru said out loud. "Don't get carried away. Remember, she can still use her curse power," Yui reminded her friend. Sayla soon emerged from the pile of books and jumped away, maintaining yet another safe distance while holding on to her injured stomach with a painful expression on her face. "You're really more trouble than what you're worth," Sayla said, cursing them. "But I'm not done with you both." She moved her hands to the side to summon even more books than before. Jiru looked ahead, glaring at Sayla before rushing into counterattack with Yui following from behind. They've passed book after book, blitzing at blinding speeds until Jiru was the first to get into close range of Sayla, with Yui still dodging the books. "Fia!" Jiru cried out while swinging her leg right around, landing a kick on Sayla, yet the demon blocked with her forearms and slid back. "Not half bad," Sayla admitted with a smirk as she stopped her slide. But she summoned more books out of nowhere and sent them after Jiru. "I will purge you all, for Mistress Kyoka's sake." Jiru clutched her right fist back as her body was glowing a dark purple aura, and then shot her right hand forward to summon a giant purple wolf. "Spirit of the wolf," Jiru shouted while unleashing her inter-animal spirit that collided with all the literature thrown at her. The two attacks made pages flare about, and the attack from the Wolf Ranger's assault dissipated to reveal Sayla in front of her. Sayla clicked her tough in frustration, before swiping an arm downward, making an average-sized but super heavy book fall onto Jiru's head. Only Yui moves in at the last second to cut the book in half with her Dino Saber, protecting her ally from harm. "You really ought to learn more about us demons, Power Rangers, like how we intend to make you part of our tales," Sayla declared, and made 2 more books shoot at both girls' exposed abdomens at high speed, which made their outfits produce sparks. The force from the books made the wind get knocked out of their lungs, and both Rangers fell to the ground with steam coming off their costumes. "Oh," Yui said, holding her stomach from the pain. "Shit, that hurts," Jiru grumbled while she and Yui were getting back up, but a book went flying in front of them, making the 2 Rangers turn back towards Sayla. "This demon story isn't over yet," Sayla said to them. Jiru again felt her teeth grind against one another with hostility. "Damn you, we're not done," she murmured while regaining her footing. "You can't keep us down," Yui spoke while standing back up as well. "Struggle all you want, it won't do you good by standing there." Sayla swiped her arm, summoning a barrage of books that went after the heroes. The 2 female Rangers covered up as the pages and hard-covered books hit them both gauntlets continuously, but the force still pushed the girls back several feet. Sayla used this opportunity to rush at them and jumped up Jiru to deliver a strong kick to her right side that made her scream out in pain and roll down on the floor, as smoke erupted from where she was hit. But the demon woman wasn't finished yet, as once she made quick work of Jiru. Sayla ran quickly at Yui in a quick pace to swing a right jab in her opponent's chest as sparks flew off it before spinning, kicking the Ranger in the left arm back near her fallen partner. "Human trash like you should know when you're outmatched," Sayla said, looking at down Rangers groaning in pain with steam coming off their suits. But despite the damage the 2 girls took, they just got right back up to continue their battle against the demon. "Foolish humans, you are only prolonging the inevitable," Sayla stated before holding out her arms to summon more books at the heroes. As more books come their way, 2 small holes on Jiru's helmet open up for her earphone jacks to come out and stroke them straight into the ground in front of her and Yui. "Not this time," Jiru shouted before unleashing a power sound wave that shattered the ground due to the vibrations, and a cloud of dust also created a sound wall that blocked the incoming books that scatters pages all over the place as the underground vibrations that shattered the floor traveled towards the demon. As Sayla went wide-eyed at the sudden intrusion. "What?" Sayla gasped before jumping away from the incoming shockwave, and she covered her face from shockwave wind pressure before landing on the ground. "Not good enough, Rangers." She summoned another wave of books at them. Jiru stopped the incoming books with quick elbow and knee jabs before roundhouse kicking a book right back to Sayla at high speed that made the demon woman place her arm up defensively to block the attack, but felt the impact of the book as she gritted her teeth from the pain. But that was the opening they needed, as the Yui was instantly right in front of Sayla before the demon of Tartaros could react. Much to Sayla's surprise, as the Pink Ranger started striking her opponent with a fury of swift hard kicks, and Sayla had a hard time blocking before spinning her body to the right for a final back kick that breaks Sayla's defenses for an opening to exploit. "Gotta ya," Yui announced while using the momentum of the spin to get on one knee and pointed her Dino Charge Morpher at Sayla with both hands on it, before spinning the barrel on the blaster. "Energize." She then uses her size quirk to enlarge the blaster to make it more powerful. "Dino Morpher Blast," Yui shouted while unleashing a large pink laser beam at Sayla, who was enveloped by the blast, making a giant explosion and shockwave. Sayla was sent flying back out of the explosion into the air before dropping to her feet as she took major damage and was having a hard time standing. But she didn't get the chance to recover as Jiru jumped at her with a right knee jab straight to the face, making Sayla turn while taking a few steps back to recover herself. Jiru ran up to throw a few quick arm swings at her opponent, only for Sayla to block them with her own arms, then spun around to throw a left hang at the Ranger as Jiru swiftly blocked the attack while holding up her right arm. Then Jiru swung Sayla's hand away before blocking another punch coming at her with her right arm gauntlet. "How are you both this strong?" Sayla demanded in pure frustration at how they were keeping up with her. "No human can match a demon from the Book of Zeref in combat. Simple, we've trained," Jiru simply said with a smirk before throwing a quick uppercut with her left arm to create an opening in her opponent. Sayla took a few steps back as she looked at her balance, right before Jiru extended her earphone jacks at the demon to strike at her quickly in a blur multiple times as Sayla grunted in pain. She could feel her skin being pierced by 1,000 needles thanks to Jiru's quirk. While this was happening, Jiru took a combat stance before stopping her earphone's assault, and moved in close to Sayla to deliver an earth-shattering elbow jab to her chest, which made Sayla cough up her own blood with an eye-widened painful expression on her face as she was knocked back trying to avoid falling down, while holding on to her chest breathing abnormality from the pain. But that was all the time they needed to unleash their next move on the demon. Jiru brought up her morpher to her side and opened the head on the device, before passing a button with the morpher flashing a few times. As the Wolf Ranger resummons the Muay Thai arena with herself, Yui and Sayla being the only ones in it. Sayla would have done something to stop this but was in too much pain to move her body properly as Yui got behind Sayla and roundhouse kicked the demon hard right in the back, making her fly straight towards Jiru, who surrounded her in a dark purple aura while taking a fight stance to unleash a powerful attack to finish Sayla off for good. "I ordered you to send a RGH." Sayla tried using her macro curse again to save herself, but when she was close enough to the Wolf Ranger, Jiru ignited her left arm with dark purple energy before punching right in the stomach, sending her flying back, as Yui moved out of the way in time to avoid getting hit as well. Sayla flew straight onto the ropes of the ring before slingshotting herself back at Jiru, with said Ranger bending down for another attack as Sayla flew right above her. Jiru then moved right back up to Sayla while igniting her left arm again for a second time to deliver the mother of all uppercuts in her jaw that created a powerful purple shockwave and sent her soaring straight into the sky at an incredible high that almost reached to the top of the tower, making the high-ranking demon of Tartaros howl in pain. Seeing this made all the slaves watching cheer and joy at the spectacular finisher from the Rangers. After a few seconds, the Muay Thai arena disappeared again with Sayla crashing back like a missile that created a giant explosion upon her impact to the ground that destroyed most of the docks, as the area was now covered in a large dust cloud with the two Rangers in the middle of it. "You think she's down?" Yui asked in a hopeful tone while waving her hand to clear the smoke. "I hope so, or else we got our work cut out for us," Jiru said as she wasn't sure if her attack finished off the demon. Soon more of the smoke began to clear away as they could see the after of destruction they'd caused in the docks, with Sayla lying on her back in small but very wide crater from the explosion and fall. Sayla's kimono was badly damaged but still intact as her body was now covered in injuries from the damage she took from the fight. Everyone thought that the battle was finally over, but shocked gasps filled the air as the onlookers from a safe direction, and frowns were across the two rangers' faces as the demon of Tartaros began to groan in pain before pulling herself back up to her feet, using every bit of willpower to steady her tired legs. Sayla's body slightly shook with exhaustion while she was calmly glaring at the two humans that put her in this state. No way. How the hell is she able to get back up after all that? Wally yelled out in both confusion and surprise. I don't know, but this isn't looking good at all, Simon said as he was sweating nervously at the situation. Do you think the Rangers CC can win against her? Sho asked, starting to lose hope. They have to. They're the only ones who can free us from this dump. Miliana cried out. Don't worry, children. Rob spoke to them in a calm tone while his eyes did not leave the battle between the Rangers and demons. Just have faith in them, and everything will turn out alright, he said, not thinking negatively as he believed the Power Rangers would win. Hearing this made the four kids look back at the docks, where the Rangers were, and started to loudly cheer them on to win against the demon of Tartaros. Soon the other slaves started cheering for the Hero Force Rangers' victory. Meanwhile, back on the battlefield with Sayla and the two Hero Force Rangers. For all my years of living, you two are the only humans that ever gave me this much trouble in a fight. Sayla spoke calmly but had a hint of anger in her voice. For your insolence, I'll personally make sure you both experience true hell before you die. The demon woman snapped in frustration at how she was being beaten by a couple of humans. Guess it's time for round 2, Jiru said, getting into a fight stance. Yui agreed, getting into her own fighting stance. Then both sides charged forward at each other to continue their epic battle. Unknown. Midoriya slowly opened his eyes and saw that he wasn't in the cavern anymore. In fact, he doesn't even know where he is. A swirling void of pure darkness was the first thing Midoriya could see when his eyes fluttered open. Where am I? Midoriya thought, which confused him as he thought he spoke. He tried moving his fingers but he couldn't. Looking down at himself, he jolted in shock when he witnessed the black substance snaking around his entire body. Even his mouth was covered in it. Midoriya struggled as hard as he could to free himself from his bindings, but it was like he was submerged in cement. What's wrong with my body? Midoriya thought, looking over his body. No brother, this is too much. Midoriya heard someone yelling and turned around to see that the area was fading into a white landscape and saw two men in the center of the bare landscape. One man had short white hair and was wearing a black suit. He had his hand over another man's face. This other young man had the same hair color as the first man and was wearing a white t-shirt with a blue jacket over the shirt, a pair of denim jeans, and a pair of white sneakers. Calm down, little brother. Soon it will all be over, the first man says as red lines start to appear on his hand that held onto the second man's face. What's going on? Midoriya thought as he ran over to the two men in front of him. And soon, you will join me in my empire, and the world will be mine to rule, the older white-haired man says as he smirks with red energy starting to flow from him and into the younger man. No brother. The younger man yells in pain from what is happening to him. Midoriya held his hand out to him, and just as he was about to reach him, his vision went white, causing him to close his eyes. So, you're the 9th user, right? A voice made Midoriya open his eyes and saw the skinned white-haired man standing right in front of him. Huh? Midoriya thought as he looked around and saw that he was in a bright void area this time. Sorry, I really did want to show you more, but you've just started getting used to the power, as you are now about to access 15% of One for All's power. Your other powers are really making things go faster in your body than they should, and that's also including One for All as well. Also, it looks like you and your comrades already have your hands full with that demon you're fighting right now, the man Skinny said, which caused Midoriya's eyes to go wide. All this was involved with the Power Rangers, One for All, and he also knew about his battle against Kyoka. Who are you? Midoriya tried to ask, but the man didn't answer him or even hear him. Midoriya then feels something on his left arm. He looks at it and sees that he is starting to disappear, and the man sees this as well. Huh? Looks like I'm running out of time for now, and it looks like you already have something important to do, so I'll leave you with this. One for All is evolving, the man Skinny said, making Midoriya's eyes widen from surprise. We've passed the singularity point and it might take some time before you get another visit here, but you need not be afraid. We'll meet again, the man said as he began to walk over to Midoriya. And remember, 9th, you're not alone. Not anymore. Just like your teammates, we've also got your back. All of us, the man said while he held his fist to Midoriya and placed it on his chest. Midoriya's eyes widen as a thought crosses his mind. Wait, don't tell me that this man is one of the previous wielders of One for All, he thought as he was fading away. Farewell, 9th. We will see you soon, and good luck on your mission in this new world. the man said as everything started to go white, which once again caused Midoriya to close his eyes for a moment as he returned back to the dark void. Having more questions than answers, Midoriya resigned himself to his fate until he noticed something that gave him pause. Up ahead were the same multiple silhouettes engulfed in shadow that he had seen before, staring at him with glowing yellow eyes. It's them again. But just who are they? Midoriya thought in utter confusion. Hoi, hoi, hoi. What the hell do you think you're doing, kid? A loud male voice shouted at Midoriya, breaking him out of his thoughts. One of the figures yelled at the ranger and began to march towards him. As the apparition got closer, the darkness encompassing him began to dissipate, revealing a large muscular man of a wide build. He had a square jaw, small dull blue eyes, and lacked eyebrows. He was also bald and had a very short beard. His appearance consisted of dark leather clothes, golden stylish goggles, and a bandolier. The leather jacket had yellow shoulder pads, and as he always had it open and didn't wear a shirt, it showed his muscular torso. I'm talking to you, you little kid. It ain't over till it's over, so stop sitting around on your ass and get back in the fight. Your teammates need your help to beat that demon chick ass. The bald muscular man shouted right in Midoriya's face, which startled the young man. Midoriya felt his body tremble with fear from the sudden voice of a man's yell. At last, I was talking to you the whole time while the mind of your highness mind was more than probably floating somewhere. You made us waste a lot of time. The bald muscular man shouted once more while pointing at the boy. Midoriya stepped back from terror, realizing what he had caused his guy. Look, I don't have a lot of time left since the first wanted to show you some of his memories real quick, so I'll explain things quickly. The way you're using my power is wrong. You're the one who must be in control, not the quirk. The bald muscular man stated to the ranger. Wait, that was this guy's quirk. Midoriya thought confusingly. To make things clear, I'm a previous wielder of One for All. My name is Degoro Banjo, and I'm the 5th holder of One for All. What you just used is my original quirk, Black Whip. It focuses on capture, containment, and mobility. Although my Black Whips is a top-notch quirk, it can still be a bit tricky to control if the user doesn't have a calm state of mind. So if you ever use my power again, you gotta keep your emotions in check, kid, without running the risk of losing control like you did earlier on your teammates. Degoro introduced himself and his power. He's the 5th wielder of One for All, and I just used his power. Midoriya thought in pure surprise. And the man I met other was the 1st wielder of One for All. All of One for All's previous wielders' quirk factors were mixed into the core of all this power. They've been inside One for All this whole time, dormant. Now, after that 1 month of training with the 8th wielder and your ranger friends, all those quirks, alongside One for All itself, your ranger power, and also use past wielders, have all grown bigger and stronger to the point that your tiny body couldn't keep them hidden any longer, so they manifested on their own. You managed to unlock my power first, but soon you'll have the others' quirks depending on how much you develop in using One for All. Degoro informed Midoriya about what was happening in his body as the ranger listened to every word. No way. All of the One for All's previous holders are all alive inside of me. Not only that, but I'll be able to use their own quirks as well. Midoriya thought, being shell-shocked by the information. Suddenly, a shiny light as bright as the sun appears from behind Degoro and he seems to be vanishing. Shit, I'm out of time. Listen, you still have 5 other quirks to release, and remember what the first said to you, no matter what, we're all with you, kiddo. You're the one who'll complete One for All. You'll defeat him once and for all, and also give that demon chick a good ass kicking for us. Degoro shouted as he vanished from the ranger's sight. Wait, no, there's still so much I wanna ask you. Midoriya tried to yell with his arm out, but it was in vain as Degoro was already gone. And then, everything around the Hero Force Ranger vanished. Power Rangers Hero Force members, Ranamamiya Ranger forms, all of them, Quirk, Quirkless, leader of the Hero Force Rangers, Izukumidoriya Ranger forms, Green Mystic Ranger, Quirk, One for All, Black Whip, Yui Kodai Ranger forms, Red Overdrive Ranger, Megaforce Pink, and Dino Charge Pink Ranger, Quirk, Size, Tyokajiru Ranger forms, Jungle Fury Wolf Ranger, Yellow Dino Ranger, Quirk, Earphone Jack, Momo Yaoyorozu Ranger forms, Red Samurai Ranger, Quirk, Creation, Second in Command, Itsuka Kendo Ranger forms, Jungle Master Yellow Ranger, Quirk, Big Fist, Fumikage Takoyami Ranger forms, Dino Charge Black Ranger, Quirk, Dark Shadow, Yosu Awace Ranger forms, Ninja Steel Blue, Quirk, Weld, and 10 more Rangers to join. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 11. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.